and welcome to another episode of Sharing with Shellshock. I am your host, ShellshockPrime, and we are back once again. Good to see everyone coming through. This is the 50th episode special, and we got 3 guests. We got all of them are returning guests. We got MantleFerox. Good to see you again.
Great to see you.
And we got KutieKatelyn.
Hey yo.
And we got Sylverstone Khandr.
Hey yo.
Good to see all of you coming in. This is a very special episode, a completely different format, where we're going to be doing a thing in which we talk about our 2 favorite games and we find flaws based on those games. And we find, and we pick 2 games that are our least favorites, and we show off on like why there's some good things about them. Like we find positive things about them. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So, Mantle, before we start, remind everybody what type of content you do.
Hi everyone, I am MantleFerox. I'm a marine biologist, I'm a gamer, and I'm a cosplayer. I do a lot of retro games similar to Shellshock here, and do primarily stream and share Nintendo content, occasionally some PlayStation stuff. I've been on a bit of a break from streaming thanks to a big over 1,000-mile move a couple months ago, but getting settled in here, working at my dream aquarium, and the Sharkade will be completely open back up again soon. But yeah, I stream all sorts of fun Nintendo games, love to just chat, both do replays as well as experience a couple like games as they come out. I don't really play new games like right as they're released because I tend to want to enjoy those myself, but absolutely love sharing those adventures and science facts with everyone on the channel. So if you enjoy the Nintendo vibes here, I try to provide very similar.
All right, and what about you, Caitlin?
Hi, I'm Caitlin, or KutieKatelyn. I'm a trans streamer. I stream kind of on and off, but like you'll typically see me doing kind of a grab bag of like RPGs or classic games, or you may even see me do like political stuff. Like I streamed the Democratic Convention the other month. That was fun. It's more fun than you think, I swear. It was a party, but that's generally what I do on my stuff.
And Silver, what about you?
Well, I stream all sorts of things, primarily like Nintendo and PC games. Currently on a bit of a pseudo hiatus. I say pseudo because I will be streaming still, but a lot of my time will be spent pushing a brand new project which I plan to get off the ground by November, which is a channel on YouTube to celebrate all things Nintendo DS called Third Pillar. They should come out soon, but like most of my time is going to there. But you know, I'm working on like all that stuff. But generally, I play anything so long as it's interesting to me.
That's good. All right, so we are now doing a completely different type of format. So it's not the typical me asking questions and we end up doing going through the topic. And I will say thank you for that resub, Mantle. I appreciate that.
Always.
And I will say this though, because this is part of the Big Birthday Subathon Day 2. So, and we are going to go right ahead with it. So I will say this. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over everyone in terms of the best games. We find flaws on our favorite games of all time, and then afterwards we find like the most positive things we could talk about regarding our least favorite games of all time. I will be going last on all fronts, since I'm the host. So what I'll do is this. We're gonna start this one with you, Mantle. Choose one of your favorite games and then see if there's any flaws that you could find regarding that game. I'll let you go first, Mantle.
Okay. Well, when you first broached gave me a preview of the subject, I instantly knew what my favorite game was going to be, because my favorite game of all time has held its position at the top for over 20 years, and surprising absolutely no one who knows me, that is The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. This has been my favorite game ever since it came out. Now, contrary to the constant joke, like, not as many people in this circle, of course, but, you know, many people are Oh, well, your favorite Zelda is the first Zelda you ever played. No,
No.
this is not
no.
my first Zelda. I mean, I was very aware of the first two Zeldas, and the first Zelda I ever played was actually Link to the Past. And Link's Awakening came out on my birthday in its release year, so I've got that connection going. I was like, the thing is, I love all of them, and people sometimes like ask me like how I would rank the Zelda games of the canon ones, and I do the whole list, and they look at it and be like, why is Zelda 2 number 22? And I'm just, you're acting like I dislike it. I love it. I just like 21 games more than it.
Yeah.
So people don't understand, but no, like Legend of Zelda is a huge part of my life for that, and I mean, if you want an idea of like how much I flipping love Shellshock and everyone here, I have paused Echoes of Wisdom to hang out here tonight.
Yeah, that is fair. That is fair.
But I mean, like I've even wearing like one of my Zelda and just Zelda specific shirts for this. So, but yeah, no, my absolute favorite game of all time would have to be Ocarina of Time. I have played it like more times than I can remember. I try to do like a replay of it at least once a year, and I mean. And it's not even nostalgia that's keeping it up, because there are some things that I feel that some of the other Zeldas, like even later Zeldas, do better than it. Like, my second favorite game of all time is Twilight Princess, and my third favorite game of all time is Skyward Sword. There are things about both of them I liked better than Ocarina of Time, and vice versa. And to me, I feel many of us are used to this. I feel that that's how it should be. Like, you can still have a favorite, but recognize, okay, this later one did something better.
Yeah.
But I don't have much critical to say about it. And honestly, I was driving home from work today thinking, man, what the hell am I going to say about Ocarina? Because, I mean, the graphics still hold up pretty well, especially if you use an upscaler.
Right.
The gameplay is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, to me, I could probably think of a couple more, but to me, the biggest weakness I could think of is I wish there were more practical uses of the hover boots.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I agree with that.
That's fair enough.
And especially because, like, the Shadow Temple is my favorite dungeon in the whole series, regardless of, like, the fact that, like, Impa's my favorite character ever, especially her Ocarina Incarnation. I love that dungeon. The hover boots were great and awesome. I just wish that they had more uses throughout. And I'm not saying that they need to be something as crazy applicable as the hook shot or the long shot, but just even more uses would have been really, really fun.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, you had a couple of those in the later dungeons, but just not as much. And I'll be honest, like I actually, to help out with the sand and later getting through Gerudo Desert, I would totally, like the Wasteland rather, I would totally use the hover boots to try to help. And it's like, oh, that didn't always work. But but that's honestly, that's my biggest criticism of it, because anything else, like they made a couple, and there's a couple of quality of life things that they boosted in the 3D
In the 3DS version, right?
Yeah, and to me, that was where they took what I consider to be the greatest game of all time and made it better.
Right.
That's honestly really it, because anything else would just be like overly critical of a product of its time, and I don't necessarily feel that's fair, because as we all know, all of us here, both like on voice chat as well as in text chat, we all know you can't hold that same standard to every single thing. Like, I'm not gonna fuss at Ocarina of Time for not having cloud saves. I just, I mean, honestly, anything else would just be like,
yeah,
exactly. Anything else would be like overly picky. Anything else would be like overly picky, like what was it? Like
to be fair, the PS1 had cloud saves.
I get it.
I see what you got. I see what you did there.
Yeah, no, I get it. But I mean, in a sense, yes, but not for me. I guess one of the other ones would. I just lost my train of thought. I mean, it would be neat if you could access like both the original game as well as Master Quest like from the same cartridge. I wish we still had Ura Zelda, like even more so. I wish that we had got some stuff on 64DD, but it's more just like all these what ifs, but we still got really cool stuff from them. So to me, and a lot of people, myself included, would love to see another remaster of it. I would, I mean, honestly, if you ever hear an explosion from the center of the Mid-Atlantic over Zelda Ocarina of Time HD remaster being announced, sorry, that was me. But the thing is while I would love that, I am 10 billion % okay if I never get it. And that's actually, some of you've heard me talk about this with other remakes and ports and such before, because while I want to be able to enjoy this game another way and I want more people to be able to enjoy it, I still have this. I still have this. So I don't need a remaster. Would it be nice? Yes. Is it required? Absolutely not. So yeah, like honestly, outside of like any unfair nitty gritty, the biggest one for me really is just let me use my hover boots in more applicable ways. And the other, because I know when Shellshock guy first mentioned this to me, he was like, "Oh yeah, think of at least a couple things you dislike from them." That was the earlier one. The only other thing is I kind of wish that there was a bit more to explore, do, and fight in Hyrule Field. I still love that Hyrule Field, and as much as I love Breath of the Wild, my favorite Hyrule Field to explore is actually Twilight Princess's. So, but to me, Hyrule Field, like the first time you just hear that, bum, 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 and you look out and you just see this whole beautiful pan across it. Like I'm still very vividly remember Christmas 1998 seeing that, and I still love running around it. I make my own adventure in it, but it would be nice if there were like even more like little side quests or little. Like even just like not just the pea hats or style children to fight. That would be cool. And just other stuff to explore and do. Like it doesn't. And again, it doesn't have to be like as crazy in depth. The whole world is your oyster, Breath of the Wild. But like even just more like Twilight Princess, where you feel even more rewarded for exploring it. But that's honestly really my only two things I would love: more hoverboot stuff, more Hyrule Field exploration.
Okay, that's fair. All right,
That's fair.
all right, but yeah, because Ocarina of Time is definitely up there for me. It's one of my favorites. It's not my favorite Zelda, but it's up there as one of my favorite games.
Yeah, and very, very similar to like I know you and I have like discussed this before, but for anyone in chat who's not familiar with it, like again, like Zelda is a huge part of like not just my gaming interest, but my identity for that matter. And anyone can come up to me and say, "Well, this is my favorite Zelda." Like, you have excellent taste because they're all great. So
They're all wonderful.
Exactly, and
wow, two cakes vibe.
I love hearing what more and more people like love for that. Like my best friend, her favorite is Wind Waker. A couple of my other closest friends, they love Twilight Princess the most. I am steadily getting more and more people like hooked on Skyward Sword, and again, they're all fantastic. And as much as I love seeing Ocarina like high up on my list and always do, not for 1 second am I naive enough to think it's always going to sit there. They could very well come out with a game that usurps it for me. And like even when Breath of the Wild came out, everyone was just like going crazy about how like, oh, it's so good, it's even better than this. And I played it, I loved it. It is my second favorite of the Wild trilogy, first being Age of Calamity. I love it to death, and it absolutely deserves all those 10 out of 10 ratings that it got. But Ocarina was still superior to me, and it has nothing to do with nostalgia. The bigger one for me was because while Breath of the Wild had that it's too much journey, not enough destination, which was admittedly mended with some of the DLC, I still loved it. But the overall feeling I got from Ocarina, nostalgia be damned, still holds on. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
So, now, Caitlin, you go next. Pick whichever game that is one of your favorites, and see if there's anything that you want to talk about regarding what you don't like about that game.
So most people who know me would probably assume I would pick anything from Sega, which no, I specifically avoided like Persona, Sonic, all that, like Yakuza, all that. So I went a little bit further back. Ape Escape 2. That's my favorite of the trilogy, Ape Escape 1, 2, and 3. But for those that don't know, it's a collectathon platformer basically. But the things you collect, your sort of Power Star equivalent, are monkeys that run away from you and fight you. So there's like a whole gimmick of using different weapons and items to stun them, distract them, catch them. And, as you collect more, you make progress, right? That's the whole point of it, right?
Right.
But the two main gripes with Ape Escape 2. So in the first one, the whole story was that the monkeys broke out of the monkey park and they got a hold of these helmets that gave them ultra intelligence. And so they traveled back in time to change history so that humanity doesn't become the dominant species anymore.
Yeah.
Ape Escape 2 is just a generic, like, take over the world plot. And it's like, okay, well, that's a bit of a downgrade than changing history itself, right? Like,
right.
That's a more hardcore story than the second one, right? But the main issue I have with 2, a lot of the new gadgets they added are just kind of one and dones. Like, for example, like most of your gadgets are like a sun club and then a net or like a little helicopter device that lifts you upwards, right? Like basic platforming equipment, right?
Yeah.
But one of them is like a water cannon. And it's like, when am I going to use a water cannon? Like, there's like 3 monkeys in the game out of like 300 total that even need it to access like certain areas, and it's mostly in one level. So like, I don't know. They did cut down the gadgets in 3, but then they added a bunch of like transformation powers you could get in 3, and I think that was just like, that was weird and different, and I appreciate that in its own way. But then it's like, okay, now you're getting like, okay, we've done all we can with the PS2. What do we do from here? Like, but Ape Escape 2, despite having a great soundtrack, great gameplay and all that, some of those gadgets are just way too situational, so to speak, right? Like the water cannon doesn't even affect the monkeys if you spray them with it.
Yeah.
So like there's literally no benefit to it other than some gates in some levels need to be extinguished. So that was my main thing. But otherwise, Ape Escape 2 is incredible. If you have a PS4 specifically, I recommend playing the HD version.
Yeah.
If you have a PS5, do not play it on PS5 because it has texture issues and can cause seizures. So don't play it on a PS5. Yes. Yeah. But ideally, though, if you play the PS2 version, you get the American dub, which has Rachel Lillis and Veronica Taylor from Pokemon.
Yep.
So they play the main characters in the game. So if you ever want some like cheesy 90s era, early 2000s anime acting, that's the way to go there. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, like the Ape Escape series is a series that I would like to get into someday because there's a big list of games I still have to check out, and Ape Escape is definitely a part of that. Funny enough, the majority of the games that are on that list are first-party IPs from Sony.
Yes.
Because there's plenty of them that I still got to do.
I was gonna say, with all these subs you're getting, if people want to hook you up more, they should get you a PS5. You can download the first Ape Escape game. Boom, you're all set up. It's the second best one in the series. It has a great soundtrack. It's done by like a DJ from Japan, like an actual techno DJ, and he's really awesome.
Yep.
Oh my God, cat!
And we got cat. We got a cat.
Cat text.
So we got Nudge.
Yep.
He is being extremely wanting attention, so I have scooped him up for Snuggle since I can't pull his toy up for him.
Yep.
Yeah, for anyone who's not met him, this is one of my 2 kitties.
Yeah.
This is Nudge. He's 8. He's a good baby. He's an eternal kitten. He's 14 pounds of snuggles.
I hear him.
Yeah. Yep. The cat's the MVP of the show for tonight.
He's as vocal as he is great. And for anyone who has not caught the reference, which is completely fine if not, Nudge as well as his little brother Senza are actually both named after 2 of Tetra's pirates from Wind Waker.
Oh, nice.
It didn't hit me until like till then. Interesting.
Silver, it's your turn to pick a game that you love and see if there's anything that you don't like about it.
All right, sure, I can definitely do that. Mantle is back. So the game that I wanted to kind of like really, not like zig, not really like go for the usual stuff that people like would like know me for. I did, everyone think, oh, so we're gonna talk about Rhythm Heaven again. I'm like, no, I'm actually not gonna talk about it this time.
Yeah.
Because like there's not much to really like say that's like critical about it, and also like again, I'd rather like branch out. So the game I'm gonna pick up first is actually Nier Automata. So Nier Automata is a game that I really enjoyed. It's my first entry. It's my first deep dive into like the Nier series. Everyone always loves talking about 2B and 9S. But when I first played it, it was back when the game was still running terribly on PC. I had to use a mod to fix it. Going back to it, it's like one of those like crazy amazing character action games. It's truly like Platinum at their best, mixed with like Yoko Tower's like insane storytelling. Like to me, it's one of those things where it feels like it couldn't work unless it was a video game. Then again, the anime is out there now, but I feel like the anime is like only just like part of it. Like if anything, you want to experience like the full like intensity of like Nier Automata specifically, like play the game. But I do address the fact that for some people with Automata it's hard to get into. Like for example, the entire like first sequence of the game, I crashed. My part I crashed twice, and I had to start the entire game over twice in order to like get past that. So it's one of those games that's gonna have like a not like a filter per se, but like there's some people who will have like less patience with with that stuff. So they'll like probably bounce off it if they don't get over that part. But it is pretty decent. Like it starts off as like kind of like a shmup, and then it gets like more it gets down to the ground and you get like more action based. But like a lot of people feel that the game takes its time to get good because like again like if a lot of people like nowadays like if a game's not really like catching with like the first like I don't know hour or whatever, they'll just refund it on Steam or whatever and just like move on to the next game. Like I try to stick to games. I'm not like. I'm glad that Steam has its like 2-hour refund window, but like at the same time, if there's a game that I really want to play, I will play it, and I won't have to worry about refunding. Like I understand why people do that, but I do agree that like the whole first route of Nier with 2B, it is kind of the tutorial of the game. Like really and truly, it's a tutorial because like you play through the game, everything like gets set up pretty well. But again, it's one perspective. It's 2B's perspective. Like the real game begins when you start playing with as 9S, like because 9S more or less like sees things, a different way. Their perspective is very different. Of course, they're not like a fighter like 2B. They're more of a hacker. So and there's more that they'll expose about the what the robots that 2B won't really think, because like she's working more or less like, hey, these guys are evil. We're gonna go down there to kill them. 9S is like, wait a minute, something about this isn't really right. Like, I think there's more to this than just, oh, they're robots that are evil. And obviously, I don't want to spoil more stuff here, but like, there's a lot of interesting things about Nier that develop from there. It's about like what it means to be human, like the human condition and all that, because like they are androids, but there's a lot of things about them that are forcibly kept from them. There's a lot about them that they don't try to like act human-like because they exist as kind of the other, or if anything, like in between humans and the robots.
Yeah.
And then also as the story goes along, again, it gets really deep, and there's a lot of parts where you really have to like pay attention. And again, I feel like a video game like that like is truly like one of a kind. And then also considering like how it is, there are parts of it that are pretty obtuse and archaic. Like it is old school in some things, like some parts, the save structure is a little bit weird, it's kind of old. You played Nier Automata, you have to go to the vending machine to like just go save. Like I have lost a lot of hours because I didn't save at the right time, so I had to walk back some things I didn't do before. So saving was definitely a big one. I don't know. It's not as open as you think it is. Some people think it's like a real open world game. Again, after Breath, like there's like to me there's pre Breath of the Wild and post Breath of the Wild. It's kind of like in that like era of like it's at the same time as Breath of the Wild, per se, but it's not like as open as people think it is.
Parallel.
It's all it's not that kind of an open game. But like there are parts where I think that this could be totally open, but actually no, it's not. It's more like constrained. You have to go like sometimes it goes 2D, sometimes it does like this top down style, but which is really cool. I like that stuff a lot.
Yeah.
But like again, it is it tries to like really emulate like older styles of games on top of like the modern third person style. And again, for some people who may not appreciate that, again, it's another kind of like a filter. Like if you don't understand these things from the get go, it's not going to be something that I would say enjoy. Like there was again I played this thing during the peak of like when it was like a broken buggy mess on PC and the fans had to fix it basically until Square Enix got off their ass and fixed it properly. But like even then, like I feel like I weathered through all of that. I beat all the main routes. I did some of the extra joke endings, and I did the ultimate sacrifice at the end, which again I won't spoil. But like there's like a big like end part that's like really intense. And it's I was because like I feel like the game the final message it was trying to impart is like are you willing to do this, are you willing to sacrifice? And I'm like, yeah, I think I can live with that. And I just went ahead with it, and it was like it's one of the games that truly I would say will change your life per se, because a lot of people seem to forget like nowadays because everyone's like, oh, it's just a game with the horny looking robot. I'm like, look past that. And there's more. It's not just the sexy looking robot girl. Like I promise you, it's not just sure we can blow her skirt off because anime, Japanese stuff. And I'm like, look, like I get it, like really and truly. Like for the longest time, whenever I would like defend your Automata, everyone would always say like, oh, you just like 2B, like you're one of those guys. I'm like, I don't like it that.
You enjoy good gameplay like Platinum. What a concept.
Like right. Like I
haven't played it yet. And I know that.
Well, that's the thing. It's right. It's a bit like Bayonetta, right? Like people to think Bayonetta is all about the sexiness, and it's like no, Bayonetta is a tight game.
She's a female power fantasy with incredible gameplay. Right,
like it's not just like the visual. It's not just the male gaze or whatever. Like it's more than that. Again, are there parts that are like that in the game? Yeah, but like I feel like the creator was smart. It's like he's like I like this stuff. I'll put it in the game. I won't try to like lie about like what I like and what I don't like. But at the same time, there's more to the story than just robot booty.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that actually reminds me of a point that I've been making for like the past 11 years, because one of my favorite films of all time is Wreck-It Ralph. And I feel that is a film that really encapsulates a lot of what we're saying here, is that Wreck-It Ralph, at its core, has a really good story. Does it have a lot of video game references and Easter eggs? Yes. Do those make the story, though? No, they do not. They add to it. It's the same as like any of the games that we're talking about here and have talked about on this channel that we love. It's like there's all this good core. I mean, yeah, there's additional flavorful stuff to it, or enjoyable random Easter eggs, whatever. That's not what makes the game. I mean, let's face it, Platinum games, no matter what their story or bonus features are, you enjoy them because they're fun to play.
Yep.
Right. Exactly. And to bounce off what you said, Mantle, it's the difference between a Wreck-It Ralph versus a Ready Player One.
Yes. 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 Well said.
Oh my goodness.
Me and my friends were talking about Ready Player One in like our private voice chat yesterday. That was
I listened to the audiobook. I watched the movie. It's like I was just getting blasted with like references every 10 seconds. I'm like, can you stop for a moment?
You need to make it accessible. Yeah, no, I get that. That was one of the fun things. Like when Wreck-It Ralph first came out, like I was in my first biologist job, and I remember talking about it with like a couple of my coworkers who are older than me, and they remember like more of the Atari generation as well as like early. And yes, so they got a few of the references, but they weren't getting some of the newer ones. But they were the way their eyes lit up when they got like a fraction of the references that are in there. It's like, that's doing it right, where they still love the movie just as much, even if they didn't catch that. And I'm glad you also mentioned Ready Player One, because when that movie was about to come out, one of my friends was super hyped because he loved the book, and I was very apprehensive, and turned out my apprehension has saved me from wasting a couple hours of my life.
Yeah. Like it took me a while to like really muster the courage to watch the movie, because like I listened to the audiobook. The audiobook again, even though cake to references, it's more icing than cake. granted, but there's a story to tell there, and I just told the story. The movie
That's what
really
I've
went
heard,
for the
yeah.
visual flair, and I'm like, you guys has made like a thing that I know that was like a little shaky worse. And like I know we're going like way off topic because we're talking about books now.
Yeah.
but it's all a part of it
no.
too. But like again, that's the thing when it comes to like stuff like this. Like, you know, you really can't judge a book or a game by its cover. You know, like there's like a lot more to it than meets the eye.
Absolutely.
Dude, how many like Super Nintendo games had those crazy labels and then the game had nothing to do with that?
Fixanity, whatever. Like with the farmer and again, that was a shooter.
Oh, that's
Yeah, and then,
Phalanx.
like,
Phalanx.
and then also like the big
Yeah. There's like a lot of games where like again, granted it's to catch your eye and to like really get your interest, but like at the same time, the game itself, the actual content, you know, that's what it is. You know,
Yes.
the name of the game is the game.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, your turn, Pete.
But like I will say for Nier Automata, yeah, like the save system is easily the worst thing about that game. The worst.
Yeah,
That's what I've heard.
And the save system, and then the first like hour again, because you cannot save during that whole section, and if the game has crashed me again twice, and I had to restart it, and people have like messed up where they think the game auto saved. No, it didn't. It did not.
Yeah.
It does not autosave for you exactly. You have to make sure that you're paying attention to like when you're saving, because there are parts again that I had to redo them because I didn't save properly or I didn't save at the right times.
And mind you, the version that I played was the Switch version. I was worried that I was gonna get those random like when a game crashes on Switch, it just like gives you that screen.
Yeah.
It did not do that for me at all throughout the whole playthrough, at least, thankfully. So my turn. All right.
Your turn.
So, for me, for anyone that knows me, I talk about a lot of my favorite games of all time, but one in particular means so much to me to the point where if it wasn't for the fact that I got through that game when I played that game, I don't know if I would actually be here right now. And that game is Earthbound.
Earthbound.
So
Let's go.
I got a lot to talk about.
Chatting about that.
I love Earthbound. Earthbound has a fantastic story with very whimsical characters. A plot where obviously it starts off with like a meteor and then like an alien threat comes in. But once you get through the game, there's a lot more to it than that. There's betrayal, there's manipulation, there's a lot of drama, a lot of comedy, a lot of really nice references to pop culture from different time periods. It was fun. I love this game so much. And it's one of those games where I would replay it every now and then. And it's just how I love that game to death. But there's some flaws that I want to talk about with this game. There's plenty of flaws.
Oh, sure.
Holy shit. Okay, so number one is the fact that you cannot run in the game. The only way you can be able to move fast is you have to buy an item called a skip sandwich. And when you eat a skip sandwich, you have to move through and certain areas with it like really fast within a certain time frame, like about like a couple of seconds. Like I think like it's under 10 seconds. It's somewhere between 5 to 10 seconds. And then after that you walk at your normal pace. Also the fact that with the exception of the fourth character that you get, which is Pooh, when you get Paula and Jeff, they're at level 1. And we just lost Mantle right now. Mantle, you okay?
Yep. They're here. I see them.
There we go. You're back on my end. Anyway.
Video
Ninja.
I am a Sheikah. I'm sorry. I'm a little inspired by some recent Sheikah action.
But yeah. But back to Earthbound. Yeah, so when you get Paula and Jeff, they start at level 1. Granted, you can catch them up. All you have to do is get into some battles, and you'll be able to catch them up very quickly. Like, you could easily do that with Paula. Jeff, not as much, because of the fact that as you get more characters, the amount of experience points you get is shared between the characters, so it just divides up. Pooh, on the other hand, he goes up to level 16 to 8, somewhere between 16 to 18 when you get him. So mainly because of the fact that you get him much later in the game. Because he's the last character. You get him you get. I don't want to spoil where you get him or how you get him, but long story short, you just eat some sort of like the weirdest cake ever that makes you go LSD and shit. And then you get this.
Oh yeah, I love that part.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you get this character. Also, why is he named Pooh? I never understood that.
Yeah, I think he just
I think it's just because it's funny. I don't think there's like anything other than it being a bit.
And another thing that I want to bring up is the fact that the inventory in this game, when you store items like into your backpack, it sucks. Even if you have all 4 characters, it sucks. And the same thing goes for being able to like store any items that you're not going to be using for the rest of the game or whatever. Or if you want to store something for now and you want to get it back later, it's tedious. I will say Earthbound Beginnings is much, much worse in that regard. I will say that right there. Another thing is also at random points, Ness has this tendency to be homesick. He would be thinking about like his mom. He'd be thinking about his favorite food and how he misses it and all that. The only way to get rid of that is by going to a telephone and calling your mother. That's how you get rid of homesickness. So it got to the point where I had to ingrain in my head to always call your mother in the game, just to make sure you do not get homesick. Also, here's another thing I want to bring up. At random points, depending on how long you're playing the game, you're gonna get a random phone call from your dad telling you to take a break. Like, remember, you know how like in the Wii and DS era, and even going into the Wii U era, where Nintendo would just randomly ask you, "Would you like to take a break?"
Would you take a break? Would you like to take a break?
It didn't start there. No, it started in Earthbound. That's where it started. Like, your father calls you to tell you that he thinks that you should take a break, and the thing also here's the other thing. There's also this thing in which that you could actually sell items. You have to have a for sale sign, and then some random person comes in. But if you want to sell key items, you obviously can't, just like in other RPGs. But here's the thing about the inventory. Let's say if you want to get like different burgers, or you want to get pizza or something, it will never be like, let's say for example, a burger times 2 or times 3 or whatever. No,
individuals.
It's individual slots. When a game like Final Fantasy VI, you can actually buy multiple potions or other items, and you can have multiple slots. Also, the fact that there's a lot more leeway in that game that you could actually save in compared to Earthbound, where like you have to go to different hotels, you have to go to your house, anywhere where you can find a phone that you can actually call and save, or call if you want to get the Escargot Express so you can be able to store items.
So can I fight you on one thing?
Go right ahead.
I'm going to be the outlier. I like the inventory in the Mother series. Not in Earthbound Beginnings. In that game, it reeks. It sucks ass. I get it, but that's just because it's too small. But in Earthbound, they didn't just do it because haha, it's like Dragon Quest. They did it because the idea is that you're a kid going on this journey, and that your backpack literally can't fit like 30 hamburgers. That would be quote unquote unrealistic.
I would like to introduce you to Child Mantle's backpack.
Yeah, exactly. But I always appreciated that. Like, that was a weird way for Earthbound to quote unquote be realistic, in that these kids couldn't carry that kind of stuff. But and then it puts the focus on the weird stuff, on the weird stuff, like the cars or the crazy ladies, or whatever that you encounter. But but I totally understand mechanically. It is not fun for that inventory to be the way it is.
It's kind of funny because I'm two of those points. Like one, like Shellshock, you got me so inspired. I finally looked up why is he named Pooh, and it seems like the best they can really say is it's just a very poor English spelling of the original Japanese, which would just be Pu from the hiragana Pooh, which is simple enough. But I know Japanese; that's easy enough. But over here, I guess they honestly did it just to be funny, and I think that's regardless of the scratch and sniff stickers. But as we all know, that's
and I'm going to get into that.
That's not necessarily an uncommon name in Southeast Asia, especially with the Moo arts. So I get that. But the inventory, I'm right there with you. It's really funny. The inventory, while I didn't like that system as much, I think I was a bit primed for it because Super Mario RPGs still had also the individual items in the original version.
Yeah, that's another. That's another complaint for that half of that game too. But yeah,
and it's like by that point, like I managed it, but that doesn't mean I like it.
I like in context, I understand it, and I like what it is in context.
Yes.
But mechanically, I'm totally with you. I really do wish you could just have 40 hamburgers in your bag.
Yeah. Other flaws that I have is I do like the whole system that they have in which that when you're about to die, you could at least have a chance to recover because they have slot. They have the slot machine system.
Right.
Originally, that was not the plan. It was going to be a Pachinko machine that they were going to have, but they could not implement it the way that they wanted it to. So they ended up settling with the slot machine system for the game. When you when you want to heal or recover your MP and all that stuff, you have it. It's like when you take a huge hit where they say you took mortal damage, you have your chance to recover so you can be able to heal and not die. But but also the other thing about this game is that contrary to Earthbound Beginnings, without spoiling anything, I will say this: in that game, Nintendo is the worst character that you have in the party. He sucks. In Earthbound, on the other hand, it's the opposite. Ness, especially when you go,
Ness is a god.
He's OP. He's super fucking OP. Especially like when you get to the late game, it shows how OP he actually gets. Basically, he's a huge 180 compared to how Nintendo is. Like Nintendo can't even lace any of Ness's shoes. That's how it is.
Oh damn.
Yes.
When
said,
you're right, you're right.
I said exactly what I said. And I don't apologize for it.
Yeah, Shell with that iceberg of a take, that Earthbound Beginnings is not great.
Yeah, because like also, let's talk about the scratch and sniff stuff. Like, yes, it's not part of the game, but
the terrible marketing.
That marketing sucks. They were trying to capture the whole like gross out humor that Ren and Stimpy started back in the early 90s. And everybody wanted a piece of that pie. Nintendo was guilty of this too, because they had the whole Play It Loud campaign where they were trying to cater towards more like edgy kids and teenagers around this time. And they decided to do this whole scratch and sniff stuff where you get those scratch and sniff cards from Nintendo Power, and they had the slogan, "This game stinks." So a lot of people are like, oh, I guess this game's bad. I don't have to buy this game. Because Earthbound ended up being a massive flop in the United States. To the point, and also to the point where like there's never like a standardized Super Nintendo cartridge and box and all that. It's a big box that has the Nintendo Power strategy guide. In addition to the game, because there's no manual, it's just a strategy guide for Nintendo Power, because they just give you everything.
I mean, their guides were the best, but
they were, but
yeah, pretty much, yeah,
they were. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah,
getting the box on eBay now is very expensive. But yeah,
so I've actually seen one of those boxes with the stickers and everything in person. and intact at one of my first mag fests, and
Mm.
it was going for a whopping $600.
600. Oh
Yes.
damn.
Yeah.
That's see before like it came out on Wii U, we had a local game shop here. Earthbound complete in box was like maybe 220, 250 at the time. Like, what happened to those days, man?
No, I know.
Earthbound's
Yeah.
way more available
No,
now, and
no,
it's somehow
absolutely.
3 times the price.
Yeah, I've got my cousins
Yeah.
there. I'm still happy to have it on Virtual Console regardless of that. But no, I'm glad you mentioned the Play It Loud thing, because I liked Play It Loud as a slogan, but there was one commercial in particular which I hated this commercial so much, even as an intermediate schooler, that I didn't want the game that it was selling. And I very nearly just did not get this game because I hated the commercial so much.
I might know which one.
The only reason I got this game was because Gargoyles was supposed to come out for Super Nintendo that year. But remember, they were marketing it for Genesis and Super Nintendo, but then they canceled the Super Nintendo version. So that year, Santa got me, left me letters like, they didn't have Gargoyles for Super Nintendo, so I was able to get you this. I hope you enjoy it. And that game was Yoshi's Island.
Yep.
It was Yoshi's
God,
Island.
that
Super-
dang
I knew it.
commercial.
I fucking knew
I
it.
knew it.
Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. I fucking hated that commercial so much. Like,
What a gross commercial.
God.
It really was, because all it was just how, like, this guy just kept eating, stuffing his fucking face with everything, and then
This game is stuffed with so much stuff.
and then guess what happens next? He
He
explodes.
He explodes.
There's 2 versions of that commercial. There's the version of it where you see him explode, and then there's a version that came afterwards in which that
It's just to the side.
like there's a side you see like people just getting hit like with all the guts and all the goop and all that stuff.
They're very Nickelodeon effective. Like, the only thing I liked about that commercial, aside from any of the footage of the game, was where it said Play Loud, but I hated the fact that it said it and not. It's like, no,
Jeez.
you have completely messed up. You've messed up your wonderful slogan, Nintendo. Why? And I remember, like, getting to Christmas morning, and I was like, I was grateful, but I'm just like,
Why?
Now I started playing it, and it was fine, but I do love the game, but that's a big case of, like, where marketing can absolutely fail.
And
Yeah.
And on another side from that, I know many of us on both sides of this chat as well have seen, like, where there's a movie trailer that looks amazing and the movie's flipping terrible, and then there's, like, the case of Kung Pao where the trailer was terrible and the movie's hysterical.
yeah,
Yeah.
Kung Pao,
Absolutely.
Kung Pao was fun. But
Hilarious.
fun fact about that commercial, it was actually a parody of a Monty Python skit in the movie Monty Python's I think it was The Meaning of Life.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, I already said everything I needed to say about Earthbound. Love the game, but there's a lot of flaws. So now we're going to be doing a little bit. We're gonna do the same thing right now, but however, we're gonna do a different order. But I still go last.
Right.
Silver, we're gonna go with you this time for this one.
Ooh, first.
So another game you love, but you have to figure out what are some things about it you don't like. So
Okay.
So you go next for this one, Silver.
All right, let me just pull up my notes for a second. was that and also that
I'm
second
only
delivery.
laughing because I do the same thing.
Oh,
And
I
because
do-
I love how whenever Shell gives us an awesome theme, like, any of us, no matter how many of the episodes we've been on, we all are like, oh yeah, I got this.
Oh, no, I was like have like notes for like whenever I'm on Shellshock. All right.
No, same, absolutely. 'Cause, I mean, this is like my favorite thing to guest on.
Believe
I
it.
compete. Do you mind skipping me for this one? Just I'll do mine after because like the delivery is like really like almost here.
All right, then, Caitlin, I'll let you go and do this one. But before you do, I just want to say real quick, believe it or not, everything I said was 100% ad-libbed.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, again, I only have like bullet points and then I just go off from there.
Oh,
Yep.
all I wrote was the game titles. I didn't even write notes.
All right.
I'll be right back.
I didn't even write game titles. I just have the bullet points in my head because that's how my memory works.
All right. So what's the next
so-
game that you like that you find some flaws about? You have some gripes.
Oh man. Okay, so this was tough because again, I didn't want to stick to my normal like my normal utility belt of games, right? But this is probably my favorite in its own series, and that's Final Fantasy IX specifically.
Nice.
Final Fantasy IX is absolutely incredible. That game has an amazing story, has amazing characters, but man, there are some really, like, it's just so close to being perfect. Like, it's just so close. So, Final Fantasy IX, originally on PS1, it wasn't my first Final Fantasy. It was like my third or fourth Final Fantasy game.
Right.
The first one I played through was 10, then I went to 13, and then I kind of like dabbled in some of the others, but like 9 is, you know, like fourth or fifth one I played through.
Yep.
So 9's whole thing is that you play as a thief named Zidane, and it was 9 was made in conjunction with 10 and 11.
Yeah.
So 9 was meant to be, okay, we're going to make this on PS1, and it's going to be a callback to all the classic Final Fantasies. So it's medieval fantasy, it's goofy looking characters, there's Moogles and shit. We have the classic victory theme back. The Final Fantasy baseline is back for the battle theme, and that's going to be the focus. It's really good. And then 10 was like, oh, the future of RPG, so it's going to have voice acting and all this stuff. And then 11's going to be online, and that's its big twist, right? Mm-hmm. So, but 9's issues stem from the fact that because they wanted to focus on kind of being a callback to the older Final Fantasy games, your main party is sort of it's thief, white mage, black mage, and a knight. Right? Just like OG Final Fantasy 1. The problem is those are the only characters that get any real focus. So your blue mage, your summoner character, you know, some of your other characters kind of just get sidelined throughout the whole plot because of, you know, the story just kind of focusing on those main four. And then mechanically speaking, Final Fantasy 9 has what's called trance, which, you know, as you take damage or deal damage, you build up a meter. And when that meter fills, your character enters like a super state, right? And when you're in that super state, you sort of get these like extra abilities. So the black mage can cast double magic, or the knight can, you know, get more attack power, stuff like that. The problem is when that meter fills, it triggers automatically. So you don't get to decide when trance happens. So if you trance in a regular battle right as the fight ends, well, you better hope the next thing isn't a boss, because you're now going into it with no trance meter, and so you don't get any of those benefits, and you better hope you survive. Wow. Because the bosses in 9 are really hard. So the 9 has some pretty, I would say, glaring flaws, but like, it's just so good, and the music is incredible. Like, and there are rumors of a remake, and I hear it's pretty faithful. Mm-hmm. So I hope it is, because if that's like the perfect version of 9, like how Persona 3 Reload is the perfect version of that game, I think we're good. I'm excited. I love 9.
Yep.
So it might sound kind of silly, but like, even though I still need to play more of them, like I'm familiar with it, but the game means a lot to me because two main reasons. One, two of my closest friends who I made that used to do cosplay, Hyrule Warriors cosplay, which, hilarious enough, that game turned 10 years old yesterday. They love the game, so that's really got me into it. And also, my good friend who I know some of you've seen in like our Twitch circle, Melodic Blue, she gave me a spare copy of her Final Fantasy IX strategy guide back in the day, and that's like one of my favorite strategy guides now, thanks to that.
Yep. See, it's funny because the strategy guide is kind of infamous for not giving you all the info in the game, because at the time they were trying to get people hyped up for what would become the online service for 11. So some of the info in that book is just check out playonline.com. Like, and it's like, no.
I love Brady games. Brady games was my second favorite to Nintendo Power, but that was still a bit like, but it was, for me, it's just more of one of those, like, it's the meaningfulness regardless of.
Oh yeah. That's the special part for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Shell, when are you going to play Final Fantasy IX?
already did, but I'm gonna play it again and stream it.
Hell yeah.
It's actually my second favorite Final Fantasy game. My favorite is actually 6. But
Nice.
6 is good. 6 is awesome. Love 6.
yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
but
I've got a copy of 9 on PlayStation. I've also got it on my Switch. So yes.
All right, I'm back.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Welcome back.
Caitlin said Final Fantasy 6 as hers. No, sorry, 9. Final Fantasy 9 as her second choice. Not that 9.
No, I mean, God, I know some point Johnny just did Final Fantasy 8.
Yep.
I honestly,
Ooh.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised though if they did eventually come out with basically what was Final Fantasy.
I keep forgetting about 9 because, like, I don't know why.
See, that's the thing. For the longest time, 9 was sort of the black sheep of the series because it came out in like 2001. Who was playing PS1 games in 2001?
Right. Everyone's focused on like 10.
8 at least had the distinction of mechanically being different and the follow-up to 7.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
9 came out in like 2001.
It's also marketed their soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and 9 came out in like 2001, so people were already on that hype train for PS2, where you had Metal Gear Solid, Final Fantasy X, Devil May Cry 2, like 1, right? Like you had all these big things coming.
Right.
No one was really talking 9, but nowadays, now that more people are starting to experience it because they actually fucking released it on other platforms, people are starting to appreciate 9 more nowadays, and I like that. So.
Yep. All right. So Silver, your turn.
All right. So this is for positive games or
Positive games. Yeah. You have this is the second one. Yeah.
all right, cool. So my second game that I picked because it's my favorite games of all time, and I will plan to cover it eventually for Third Pillar. It's Mario Kart DS. Like, it is still my favorite Mario Kart, even though we live in an age where Mario Kart 8 is pretty much like the be all end all of Mario Kart, which again I do love. Mario Kart DS was like one of those those like first games that I really just like dug my teeth into and really enjoyed. I played it constantly on my DS. It was like the way how I made friends, in high school because DS download play. Like basically an old timer. It was the first modern game to have the retro tracks. For not just Super Nintendo retro tracks, but like every other game in the series at that point getting remade. So again, all around, also first online game for the series. Also one of the first games online for the DS for the Wi-Fi connection because it was Animal Crossing Wild World and it was Tony Hawk's American Skateland. The first 3 again. We'll cover that eventually. Again, all this knowledge in my head is spilling from a bunch of research I've been doing for the last couple months.
Yeah.
But Mario Kart DS is phenomenal, but of course, like any game, there are flaws, and the biggest one here is, of course, snaking. And some people might see it as a flaw. It's more of those games where, again, like wave dashing and melee, snaking is one of those things that was more exploitative of like the game's mini turbo system. And for those who don't know how snaking works, basically you can more or less like chain mini turbos like back and forth along like a straightaway or like along the curve. You more or less like keep like a good amount of speed for the entire time that you can maintain it. And for those who are really, really good at it, like you can watch Summoning Salt's like Mario Kart DS video about the world records. Like there are some really good players who can basically do it like the entirety of the race, which is nutty. Because like when I learned how to do it, obviously to stay competitive a little bit, it hurt my hands. Like I remember like a lot of times where like I couldn't play for a while because like again mashing on that D-pad, really trying to like get those in. Like it does take a while after a while, but some people were better than I am. So snaking, like more or less, like if you went online and tried to play normally, you are gonna be left in the dust because if anyone in there knew how to snake, you're not winning that game. Like you are gonna be just like like sure you can maybe you get better because like by that point the item system was codified where like you get better items the further behind that you are, but like in that game still the blue shell was a major problem. Not maybe not the scale of Mario Kart Wii, but like in a sense like you would at least like still competitive in terms of like being able to have better items, but in terms of speed you're not gonna win. Like it just doesn't work. Like it never does work. And then also since this was still early DS in a way, you can only play on 20 of the 32 tracks online. Their reasoning was either like hardware issues or whatever. But there was an instance it happened on stream not too long ago I played Mario Kart DS emulated because like they have like fan servers now more or less thanks to WeamFi. And one of the person who I was playing with, like they popped up in my chat, it's like, "Hey, you want to play?" I'm like, "Sure." Like, cause like who's something on Mario Kart DS online in 2023 of all times?
Yeah.
So he hops on. And when we play online, he hacks in like one of the unplayable tracks to play online. I'm like, you could do that? Like, it turns out it works just fine. I don't know what happened back then to make it not work, but like, I guess it worked then. So that was like one of those things that just ends up being, a realization now. It's like, yeah, I could totally play those tracks. It's just that Nintendo just felt that these were a lot more stable than playing on the other ones. I'm guessing like again whatever elements that were in those tracks just didn't work out online. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But man, Mario Kart DS again, phenomenal game. I feel like there's definitely a point before and after it because like Mario Kart DS, Double Dash, I do respect in a way. For the longest time, I get my friends because I like Double Dash is the most overrated Mario Kart game. Don't at me. Now that's shifted from Double Dash to Wii personally.
Yeah.
And I want to get into that fully, but like again, DS kind of like started it, but everyone gives Mario Kart Wii the credit for it, and I'm like.
Mario Kart DS was sort of like the start of like modern day Mario Kart.
Yes.
Like
Absolutely.
Mario Kart DS was totally like they nailed it on their first try with Mario Kart DS, like what modern Mario Kart feels like,
Right, like they absolutely nailed it. Again, the added system was probably codified to be fair. Again, not the new tracks and the retro tracks. Still never replicated fully. Mission mode, was phenomenal, but never brought back as an official like side mode because I know they have the mission mode in Mario Kart Wii, but that was like a Wi-Fi connection exclusive thing. I believe. Yeah, and then it was brought back for any of the future games. Unfortunately, I guess for whatever reason. And again, even though it was one of the first like online ones, it was still a very strong online game. Honestly, still one of the more significant DS online games besides the Pokemon games. That to me is like the beginning of modern Mario Kart. A lot of people think that like Wii was the one where it started. I'm like, no, it was actually DS that started it.
It was
for modern Mario Kart. So that's my that's my bit right there for Mario Kart DS.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome bit.
Mantle?
For me, I would go say for another game that I really love, I could have done just easy mode. Like, my second favorite game of all time is The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. And just for the sake of it, though, since you had mentioned like two favorite games, I will mention a couple of very brief points on that before I get to the main point of that. I can mention it like very similar to what I was saying with Ocarina of Time, like an item or two in the game, which was awesome, but I feel could have had even more uses, like the Dominion Rod or even the spinner would have been really fun. And this is a more technical one from that. While I was thrilled that Twilight Princess was able to be released with the Wii on the Wii as well as the GameCube at release, I didn't like the solution was just like, well, let's just flip the entire game. So everyone got so used to a backwards through the mirror version of Hyrule, and I'm like, no, this is cool, but just because I'm a canon fiend. And don't get me wrong, I loved it. I have played through it on all three releases, Wii, GameCube, and Wii U, Wii the best one. But it was really funny because I even had some friends who were like, man, I was really looking forward to trying to use the Wii Belt with the left hand. And to me, especially with how basic the Wii remote controls were for that, I feel we could have still had a left hand in that one. Now, as we all know, especially with Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild, the whole, Link is always left-handed. No, usually left-handed, often left-handed. Get off your high horse and understand these games. But anyways, those would be like my two biggest ones for it, which is like how it was marketed for that as well as that. But if we're going, again, out of easy mode, because, again, I love all the Zeldas, I can name a couple things in them, because while they might be close to perfect, again, as we all know, no game is perfect.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go like a big shocker here, but just for the point of the conversation, my second favorite game series of all time would be Splatoon. I have sunk so many hours into this incredible series. I love Splatoon so much, and honestly, some of what I'm talking about could go for the first one as well as for even Splatoon 3 at this point. And this is not a flex, but this is to show that I love Splatoon, so I get what I'm saying here. Is that I've sunk over 1,600 hours in the first one, and both 2, I've sunk over 2,400 hours into, and 3, I'm creeping up on 2,500 hours now. So I love Splatoon. It very rapidly rose to my second favorite game series of all time. It is the online multiplayer for people who hate online multiplayer. The single player campaign in all 3 games, even without the DLC, is so underrated and so much fun. The sheer amount of lore and character development and just fun you get in all of the story modes it's fantastic. And it's like, it's great to be able to see the Animal Crossing team be able to work on this and all the stuff that we get in it. And there are some technical things I could fuss about, but again, like I was saying earlier, I have an amazing friend group who I've met thanks to Splatoon, and they all very frequently raise all these criticisms, and I'm sitting there thinking, did we even play the same game? Those are not the criticisms I'm going to raise, and that's not out of like being a contrarian or like, oh, I'm so different. But it's not if I just simply don't see those as criticisms. I would honestly be more minor things. Like, one of the first ones is, I've wanted this ever since the first game. I wish that you could, in addition to like changing your Inkling's appearance and everything, I wish that you could also set like a default ink color for them to do switch out to for there, because many of us, myself included, have made Inkling characters. That's where I get the name Mantle from. He is my main Inkling character. And his main color is green. I mean, I will often joke around, even my friends will joke around, hey, look, his Mantle green. So, it's minor, it's not a huge issue, but it would be nice to be able to, in addition to like, oh, here's your Tentacut, here's your eye color, here's your skin color, here's your bottoms style. If you could also just be like, this is your default ink color when not in between battles. Another one which they've kind of touched on in 3, ever since the start screen on the Wii U gamepad in the first one, where you kind of see your Inkling's room or apartment as a map with all that decor up there.
Mantle? Everything good?
Here, yes, I'm good.
You're good. You're good. You're good.
There you go. I heard you. I heard all of you. I
heard you. All right. Repeat. Can you repeat that last point real quick one more time?
No, of course. I'm sorry about
that. One more time.
I'm just like, because I saw it happen to it. I'm like, Video Ninja, are you kidding me? And the funny thing is, I'm literally doing nothing. My computer is just sitting here. But I was saying that one of the things that I feel was very underrated in the Wii U era was the really cool little like start screen that you would get both on the TV screen as well as on your gamepad. And as we all know, we kind of got like the channel menu one for that with the Wii, and not all of them had to be deafening like Super Smash Bros. Brawl. My favorite one for that honestly was Skyward Sword. I just chills every time. But when Splatoon you started up, on your map on your gamepad, you see a map of basically your Inkling's room as though it's a battle map. And on the screen, you see basically either their apartment or their room or whatever with all their decor and everything. And I have wanted since the first game, basically you to be able to have an apartment or a room or something, just a place for your Inkling to go and chill out and enjoy, decorate in between matches, like kind of like Travis Touchdown's apartment, hotel right now. And No More Heroes. Just, even if there's not as much to do with it, just a place for you to sit and chill and enjoy just the vibe of the world. Now in 3, they kind of gave us a little bit of a bone, like where you have a locker that you can customize and adjust and add stuff to. And I have had a lot of fun like adjusting mine, and like even I've made it like as a combination both for me as well as my character Mantle, because he's not a self-insert, he's just incredibly based off of me. And even like having some of my close friends I've met from this game look at it, yeah, that's a very Mantle locker. Like the fact that they can tell it's my locker without even seeing the slash tag makes me very happy. Because the lockers are great, but I still wish that you had a better place to explore and just chill, sit in that. And also from that, especially since as of earlier this year, the first Splatoon is the internet servers are down for right now.
Yep.
I wish that there was another way to, within the game itself, still explore some of those maps, test out more of those weapons outside of just the firing range. Like, I mean, the single player story mode is still there. And fun fact, when Splatoon was first teased at E3 2014, I was excited as hell, but also thinking, I'm not going to play the online, but I'm excited for this. I'm at least going to play the story mode. And especially once they started showing the story mode, I was like, yeah, I'll just play this and that's fine. Well, I was level 10 before I set foot in Octo Valley. That's what it hooked me. But I just wish that there was still a way to explore and check out some of those areas, which, as we all know, with the internet and online gaming, that sometimes that's a downside of it. And this was a new feeling for me because I mostly play offline games.
You do,
And
yeah.
even though, same as y'all, I went through like the Wii and the DS's online connectivity ending, it was still just very like, I got so much OBS footage of like my last few days playing Splatoon 1, and I made sure to like random bystander, he and I hung out online, and we were just gonna like do some of the battles. We did a lot of battles together, but I'm like, random, I want us to check out all 16 stages before they're gone. So we just went into a private battle, not even just trying to spawn each other, just exploring and enjoying the stages. Yeah, which I love doing that anyways, because like in both Splatoon 1 and 2, Piranha Pit, the great Zapfish is swimming around on one of the sides that are. There's so many cool little things in those stages, and you can't really check them out. Now, I need to see if you can still see them in the shoal, but it's just the game is not, even if the online is dead, the game itself is not dead. You can still play. It is still worth playing. I will argue to my dying breath, I will argue that it is still worth playing that game.
Yeah, no, the fingerprint's phenomenal in that game.
But but it's still just, it's surreal to know that you can't even just go explore the stages the same way you used to. And I know that I was gonna say, it's like anything else. Like, I feel just really nitpicky about it because some of my friends like always are like going on about, like, oh, they wish there were custom games
that would break the balance of the game.
Thank you. Exactly.
No,
Sorry for yelling, but it's just like it works. It works in single player stuff, like in side order. But the only way I could see custom kits working would be if it's like, if this, then these are your only options. So, for example, if this is your main weapon. Exactly, like you can't just automatically choose between all of the and all the subs. You have a limited thing. That would be the most I'd be willing to give it, because I'm just sitting here thinking, do you?
Yeah, like again, like I understand like everyone like be up and down over like, oh, I wish we could do custom kits. Like the kits are there for a reason. Like they're all balanced out because there are likely some kits that they found in testing. Like, wow, these things are like completely overpowered. We can't have this. We can't have these together in the game. Because like I know for some certain like weapons, if they had the right like sub and the special, they would be unstoppable.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. No. 10 billion%. It's like meta damned. Some of them are easier to use for some of those things than others, but to me, I'm just going to say I don't want custom kits. I mean, I won't be upset if they add some variety of that, because I wouldn't be surprised if they add a type of that to Splatoon 4, the same as how they added some of the stuff from Octo Expansion to Splatoon 3. But it's now that we've seen it in side order. But I don't want like a full-on, complete, just no holds barred, because it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm sitting here thinking, you keep saying you want this. Do you want to fight against that? So it's really easy to say if it's on like one shoe, but you try down the other button. But no, but for me, really just, and then if we're going to Splatoon 3, listen, Splatoon 1 itself, I feel that while I love the badges and the more tangible proof of like what you've put into the game, I feel that some of the badges and rewards, like the scales or statement, I feel they're a bit too grind reliant, which, again, I'm ready and willing to pour hundreds and thousands of hours into it, but I still feel that some of them, it takes too much RNG or too much time investment to get some of those. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be worth working towards, but like, for example, the amount of time and effort that you have to put into 4-starring a weapon versus 5-starring it is obscene.
Yep.
So I still feel the series is on the right track, and like I said, my biggest criticisms of it really are just like, oh, just minor cosmetic things. Like, let me choose this color. Let me do more custom stuff that's not just in the battles. And frankly, as much as I love exploring cities, I wish I could explore even more of the world.
Yep.
But it's similar to what I was saying with Ocarina of Time. Like, I can make those couple criticisms and remarks, but even without them, the game is still flipping amazing. And for anyone here who has, I mean, I know like all of y'all checked it out, but if anyone in chat like not tried Splatoon yet, yes, we've just had Grand Festival, but the game still has so much life in it. I mean, Splatoon 2 is still active. Like, I actually hopped into a match in Splatoon 2 like last month and didn't have to wait too long for it to start.
I really want to definitely hop before Splatoon 2. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that we've been talking, like, three of us at least have been talking about trying to get some matches in some time. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for where it's headed. And I love how they just keep adding more stuff to it. I mean, I can't believe. Honestly, I'll go ahead and give y'all a preview. The game in the series itself is going to be 10 years old next year. How does that happen?
Yep.
And on its anniversary, I'm probably going to stream like going through the single player story mode just because why not?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, just real minor things like just add-ons. Like they're not required, but they would just like it's like you've got like the perfect meal, but you add just a little bit of salt, and it really just makes it amazing. It's something minor.
Yep.
So there you go.
So that's Splatoon.
Yeah, Splatoon, baby.
Yep.
That was good. Yep.
You know it.
All right. Yep. So now it's my turn. So
yes,
the next game that I want to talk about, I actually love this game a whole lot. But here's the thing. It is up there for me, and I will say the sequel to it came out last year, and it's better in every way. But this one, I hold it in a much higher place because of the impact that it actually had. That said, it has a lot of flaws that I do want to talk about, and that game is The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild.
Ooh,
So,
okay.
So,
All right.
so Breath of the Wild. What type of flaws do I want to talk about regarding that game? I have plenty. However, before I get to that, I just want to say real quick though, like that game is absolutely phenomenal. Like I felt that Zelda really needed this change. They needed to do something completely different because I remember like people were talking about, like people were saying how Zelda would, like especially 3D Zelda was stale and they wanted something completely new, and they felt that Skyward Sword did not give them that. They felt that Twilight Princess didn't give them that. People didn't like Wind Waker because of the art style. So like after Majora's Mask, like
people just like to complain.
Yeah. That said, when we got to Breath of the Wild, it has a huge open world. You could be able to go wherever you want when you want. They have different towns. You can meet a lot of people. There's a lot of quests you can actually do. But what are some of the flaws that I have with this game? Well, the first off is there's barely any music in this game. Compared to, I mean, the music that's there is great, but there's barely any music. It's usually like the same type of music that you keep hearing whenever you go into any of the fields.
It's just ambience.
It's more ambience, yeah, ambience. Yeah, that's what it is. And when there is music, it's definitely on point. It's really good. I like a lot of the renditions. It's one of my favorites is like the when you go to Zora's Domain, and that's a really good rendition right there. But
like the moment to moment music, like in Hyrule,
yeah,
like Hyrule Field, it's like, like it works for that game. So it's like quote unquote not it's not bad objectively speaking, but like it's not on my playlist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, no, and it's like it's a beautiful track, like even just the field itself, but I mean, I agree with you completely on the towns and cities like that. To me, it's like it's on point when it's there, but so much of your game is exploration. And I understand you have to strike that balance between subtle music and being able to hear your environment. But there's a big reason why I was constantly riding around on a horse so I could have music.
Yep. Another thing I will say that I have a huge gripe for is the fact that I feel like in regards to like those abilities that you actually get when it like fuck what do they call them again? Like when you get one of the guardians, like when you basically finish
Perfect
up.
parry.
Huh? Repeat that?
Perfect parry.
Yeah. No, not perfect parry, but
Like a perfect guard.
no, I'm talking about like when there's certain those orbs that you get when you finish a dungeon. And
Materials, gotcha.
yeah, I forgot what they were called, but yeah. There was one that I did not like whatsoever out of any of those. Like I will say my favorite one is the one you get from Rivali's Gale. That's my favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, was good.
My least favorite one is actually the Zora one. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's
Mephi's Grace.
Mephi's Grace, yes.
It's there if you mess up, basically.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Because
See, I actually received Mephi's Grace from her voice actor.
Funny enough, I have the voices in Japanese still for my Breath of the Wild for the voice acting. So
yeah,
it's really good. Like, Revolving Gale definitely is like the go-to like power, but like I think
let's be real, that's the good one. Come on.
yeah.
A go-to, yes, but my favorite is still.
Thank you. There we go. Like I'm like it's go-to.
Come on,
It's
you
go-to,
got
but
me here.
like for crowd control, like boom, lightning.
Yep, I'll give you that one. But another flaw that I have with Breath of the Wild is the fact that it's gotten to a point where like even though a lot of side quests are pretty much optional, the game kind of wants you to do them, even though they're optional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what if I don't want to do it?
I mean, I'm a completionist. I love doing them, but I agree with you.
And also, the dungeons, in my personal opinion, are not actually dungeons. Like they're just the way that they're structured. Like when you go to the Divine Beasts, I really do not like how they kind of look samey. They don't really look that much different to stand out. They just basically like, oh, you have one corridor you have to go to another, and you have to be able to meet certain objectives, and you fight like those different types of Ganons. Like the best one, in my opinion, is when you is that the best one is not Divine Beast. Is actually when you go into Hyrule Castle itself. I thought that was amazing. But the
Hyrule Castle was like a real dungeon.
Yes.
Like, that was awesome.
Yeah, I could easily tell like this game screamed that they really wanted to come up with something, and then like they kept delaying the game. They just want to make sure to not delay the game any further. I can understand that point of view because the game was supposed to come out in 2015. And it didn't come out until March 2017 as a Switch title, in addition to also coming out on Wii U. But another thing I will say is that I absolutely think that Hyrule Field, they could have done a whole lot more with the game than what they actually did.
I agree.
Because
I agree completely.
There's parts of which that I felt was empty. That they could have done a lot more with, which in my personal opinion, I think Tears of the Kingdom did it better. There was a lot more going on in Tears of the Kingdom, even compared to Breath of the Wild. But with Breath of the Wild, I will say the Guardians, like yes, I understand their purpose, and they're supposed to be like when you're not ready to fight them, you just gotta get the hell out of there. But sometimes like. The game just doesn't care that you're not ready. The game does not care at all that you're not ready. Like,
Yeah.
And I feel like whenever like you're not supposed to be in certain sections or whatever decisions you make, it's never the game's fault. The game implies that whatever you do, it's your fault. If you do this, do that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Like,
And I agree wholeheartedly. I'm like, yes, Shellshock, you're speaking to my soul.
like I feel like Tears of the Kingdom, it's nowhere near as bad. It's nowhere near that bad compared to Breath of the Wild. But having said that, I can't really think of anything else that I want to say regarding Breath of the Wild. I said all my grievances that I need to say. There's probably some other things I might have missed, or actually there is one more thing. Trying to find those dragons.
I get that. So y'all would laugh at me. This is before I met any of y'all. I went on a whole day of dragon hunting. Like, I literally, like, all I did that day was just like warp between 3 points and like farm dragons, and it was fun. I actually have a little leather notebook where not only was I like doing like all my progress for like Zelda games, I need to pull that out for Echoes of Wisdom.
Yeah.
I actually like marked down like how many of each shard I got for that particular run. It was so fun. But no, I honestly I felt that they were better to find in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but I get that. And it's like in the end I liked Breath of the Wild more than Tears of the Kingdom, but like I feel like each of them did things better than the other did.
Yeah.
And Age of Calamity did it better than both of them. But no, it's just they're all great in their own way. And it's kind of like I said earlier, like where it's an amazing game and absolutely deserves all the praise it gets. But does that mean it's the best? I don't feel so. If someone says that they feel it's their favorite or the best, I'm not going to argue. Be like, oh, it's a great one. It's not my favorite though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even in my top 5.
Yeah. But that being said, I will say though that I do think Breath of the Wild, while I do prefer Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild had a lot more impact going into it, whereas Tears of the Kingdom was just a really good sequel that fixed a lot of issues that Breath of the Wild had.
Oh yeah,
But
for sure.
other than that, I don't really have any other complaints about Breath of the Wild. I think that Breath of the Wild is still fantastic. It's just those flaws are what I wanted to bring up. So
yeah,
now that we got all the flaws out of the way, let's talk about the games that we think are like some of our least favorite games of all time, and we find what makes them not as bad, or find some positives about them. And this one we'll start with you, Silver, since you had to step away before. We'll start with you for this one, okay?
Right. So for the games that I didn't like, but I will say things positive about them. All right. So I'm gonna flip for this one. So I went from, because I chose a PC game and a DS game, so now I want to go for a DS game and a PC game.
Okay.
So it's not that I dislike this game per se, but like when I think about it, like it's not really a game that comes up immediately in conversation. But Pokemon Dash for the DS is an interesting game. Definitely one of those like launch era DS games where you're using a touchscreen for various things. In this case, it's probably, I think, I'm not sure if it's the only one, but like it's the only time I've ever seen a Pokemon racing game, because you are Pikachu, you're trying to race against other Pokemon going from island to island, and it kind of is a little bit one note. It's one of the games from Umbrella. Most people know them from Hey You Pikachu.
Yep.
Particularly among other like smaller, lesser known spin-offs for Pokemon. I still think it's a very different kind of game. Again, like we don't see anything in that genre for Pokemon at all. Like I don't think they've made like a sequel or anything else ever since. We've had many different Pokemon puzzle games, obviously. A lot of like other like different types of like genres, but like racing was one I wasn't expecting at all, and it was like I think it was like I'll give it like the benefit of the doubt. Like it was a very different kind of like spin-off, and it was pretty solid. And also I go back to the music sometimes. The music is like pretty cute and cheery, very much like a solid Pokemon spin-off. But like those are the only things I really hate about it, because the reason why I hate it is because the reason why the reason why I didn't like it as much is it is pretty one note. There's not much that the game really does to really stand out, and also it ruined my first DS touchscreen. because of all that touching. Yeah, I scratched my touchscreen pretty bad.
Oh, my sympathy.
Yeah. That's the reason why. Again, when I say earlier DS games, I'm like, yeah, they're like really into like, oh, yeah, touch. You know, you got to use the stylus and touch and like move the character. I'm like, you know, I have buttons too. I'm like, no, you got to touch. You got to do like touching. You got to swipe up to like get into like a power shoot to like go. To, like, it's a very interesting game. Like I'm planning to replay it in the future, and I know that there's something I don't remember very well. But I remember getting really into it because like I did enjoy it. But then looking back, I'm like, it's one of those things. Like again, when you think Pokemon spin-off, it's not gonna be like the first one you think about. It's maybe it'd be like I don't know, Pokemon Rumble, Pokemon Troze, Pokemon Puzzle League. You know, but like Pokemon Dash is gonna be like really low on the totem pole in terms of like what you can remember as like a decent Pokemon spin-off.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So Pokemon Dash, yeah, didn't play much of it, but I tried it. I'm like, nope, no.
Yeah, and again,
that was the Walmart demo game for me.
Yeah.
I guarantee that Walmart DS demo kit has like some scratchy ass touchscreens because of that game.
Ours stopped working after like a month.
Yep.
I'll say before you can see if you like it's either had Pokemon Dash, March 64 DS, or Polarium.
Yep.
Like they really want to push that touchscreen. But go on, Pete.
But I was gonna say for the next one, like you finished all your points, right?
Yeah, I'm all good. Like I got nothing good to say about the game.
All right, all right, Caitlin, your turn. Find something positive to say about some games you do not like whatsoever. The next one that you have.
Okay. So, it's tough, right? Because I was talking about this pre-stream, but like the low-hanging fruit, you know, your Sonic 06s, you know, like, oh, I don't like Breath of the Wild, like which is true, I don't, but
right,
but I'm not going to be that person. What I am going to be, I'm going to say Xenoblade 2. I do not like Xenoblade 2 at all. I fucking hate that game. But I love the visual design. I love the art style of that game so much. And I'm so mad that it's in that game of all games. like everyone points out, you know, the hypersexualized bunny character, or there's some low-key transphobia in that game too, which I'm not super hype on, but in general, I love how that game looks. I love the world. I love like the expansive, like cloud ocean. I love that, like, you are literally walking on the backs of titans. Like it is such a cool place. I love Allrest so much, but like, man, it's attached to Xenoblade 2, and I don't like that game.
Yeah.
Because I love Xenoblade 2.
But I could.
I love it.
See, that's the thing, and more power to you. But like, you need a fucking college degree for the combat system, and like, I don't like that side quests are mandatory, especially in the DLC. I do not like forced side quest, because then at that point it's not a side quest, it's just a main quest. Well, so why are you making me do side stuff?
Well, at the same time, though, the DLC is less DLC and more a completely separate game. But I agree. As much as I loved Torna, I didn't like that it felt forced. And it's like, wait, I'm doing all this part. To me, it felt even more forced than fucking heck.
It was 100% worse in Torna when it came to that. The millisecond it said I couldn't progress because I didn't have enough friends or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I messaged my friends, my friend at the time, and I'm like, I know you already beat the DLC. I need you to tell me, is this going to continue if I reach this marker? And he tells me you basically have to 100% the DLC to finish it. And I said, I'm good. I'm looking up the story. Because I did not. I love the combat in the DLC. That combat is amazing.
Yeah.
I'll even praise. I like the base game combat once I understood it. I love that combat system. It's very satisfying once you figure it out. But like, and so like the moment to moment gameplay I like, and then it's like, oh no, you're gonna have to do a bunch of stuff you don't want to do. Oh, here's a bunch of bad voice acting. Oh, here's like a shoddily put together story about JK.
Two different games.
Look, Mantle, we can go on about this on another stream another time, but like you said least favorite game. I went for like, where is a game that is so bottom of the barrel for Caitlyn she will pop off on how much.
No, I know you mentioned
like,
that. I'm used to.
But I love.
Sorry, go on.
But I love how this game looks, and and I love that I love that Xenoblade 3 is like the idealized version of that. They scaled it back more. Mm-hmm. They had the more humanoid looking characters. Everyone was like proportioned. So Rex didn't, look like a balloon animal anymore, which was nice. But man, I love that world. That world is so cool to be in, that's my thing.
No, always is great. It's like, and I'm sorry, like, regardless of like, I know how like all of us can get passionate about these things, and it's like I'm not here to counter or argue any of that because this is your take for that. I will say that it's really funny for me because like I love the Xenoblade series. It's my third favorite series. Like I liked 3 has become my favorite. Prior to 3, like I would describe it. I liked 1's story the most, but I liked 2's characters more. But
yeah,
it's like
I can see that.
Yeah,
you know what? I don't even disagree with that.
Yeah, no, and it's like, and I can definitely see like where. I mean, I can make the joke about did we even play the same game, but I also get where you're coming from in it. So, and I'm glad it was at least visually appealing, even if it did hit those other notes for you. So, but I'm happy that was Xenoblade 3. Actually, Caitlin, I'll make sure that you're one of the first to know that I'm going to be cosplaying. I mean, yeah, Morag has been on my cosplay list for a while, but Senna's also like skyrocketed up to the top of it. So Senna will be coming sooner rather than later.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
So, go ahead.
Oh no, but yeah, that was my thing, Xenoblade 2. So go ahead.
All right, Mantle, it's your turn.
I just gotta say, like, that's part of what I love, like, with all of us here, like, Caitlin especially proving it, that, like, we were all talking about this before stream for anyone who didn't hear, like, yeah, we can go for low-hanging fruits, but it's more fun to not.
Yeah.
So, and, like, even if there's ever anything surprising that's said, and I realize my 2 takes might get similar reactions. It was so funny because when I was asked for 2 games I'm not as big a fan of, again, there's some series that I dislike the idea of so much I've not even touched. And I refuse to, but I'm like, that's not fair. I've not even played them. I can look up or learn whatever I can. I'm not going to do that, though, because they're not part of my game repertoire. But when you mentioned 2 games you dislike, I hate to admit that I thought of one almost as quickly as I thought of a favorite game. I still need to complete this game. It will likely be completed on stream because I started it on stream. And it's just one of those games which is constantly sold up. But I feel that nostalgia blinders are extremely hard on this one. And I know all of us can think of games, whether our own favorites or some of those popular internet ones. One of my least favorite games that I can't say I'm mad it's in my collection, but I am glad that I at least didn't try to track down a PS2 version and instead got the PS4. Would have to be Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh,
wow.
I don't hate it. I'm just, it's not as fun as I was hyping it to be. And it's like, I realize that it's a glorified walking simulator.
Yep.
I mean, you want to talk about like a world with no music. Hyrule Field, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom in between events is a blasting symphony compared to this world. And it is pretty, but it's like it's an absolute it's just I don't hate it, but it's been really hard for me to muster the energy to get back to it. Like I'll get to the positives in a second, but it's just there's a whole lot of nothing. And that frustrates me. But a positive, there's a whole lot of nothing, but it's really pretty. it's
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's really pretty, and
definitely a spectacle.
Yeah, no, it's a visual spectacle, and I know that it's really funny because like when I was first getting into playing the game and realizing where I was feeling about it and actually feeling conflicted, I was looking up like, am I the only person who feels this way? And I stumbled across this really good Reddit thread, even of a couple people in there who are like, no, this is my favorite game of all time, but I absolutely get where you're coming from. And I know that all four of us are really good at that, like where we can like or dislike a game, but we can openly look at like where someone feels that way.
Yeah.
And again, all four of us are great at that. I'm not going to go on about that because it's just repeating myself at this point. But I feel it even when you can look at a game you love and realize that that's very powerful and very respectable. It's very pretty, and the world is nice. I just wish there was more music and more stuff to do in it to supplement that. And the other positive I can really think of for it is when you do get some of that music, like some of the Titan battles, the music's pretty nice.
Yep.
Like
oh my god, the main theme of Shadow Colossus is untouchable.
Oh
like,
yeah. I mean, I can touch it and I can think of a couple, but I know exactly what you mean. But no, musician jokes aside, the music for when they do play it, when you're in those battles, when it's that main theme, when you actually get to listen to it, this is part of why, like the first time I ever heard any music from it was, I went to Video Games Live about a decade ago. And this was one of the pieces that they performed. And I was like, wow, that's really pretty. So, of course, when I hear this theme when I'm playing the game, I'm really excited. It's like, oh my gosh, this is the music. And it's like, this is about... Okay, I'm done now. It's just... It's very, very peak and low. And I will finish the game. I'm also, I know I don't know the ending. I've been very good at dodging spoilers. I know without knowing the spoilers that some of my friends have feelings about where it leads you, and I'm starting to get a hint of that without knowing exactly where it's going. And I'm keeping an open mind. I've not written it off, and contrary to some of my friends, I have not sold the game. I am a collector. I'm keeping it. But I'm confused as to why it got such like raving geeking out and fanaticism for the past decade, and I'm just, this is what y'all were crazy about? Now, liking is one thing, but it's like,
So if I may, I think the reason why it kind of gets that like it put on a pedestal vibes, I think this is one of the only times that people have played an artsy game. A game that's meant to be more about the experience and not the moment-to-moment gameplay, right? But that being said, the PS4 version is definitely the better version of the game, in my opinion.
That's good to know. I appreciate that.
It fixes the controls, but kind of. You're right in that like at least with Breath of the Wild, you're not always doing something every 5 seconds, right? But you're still finding new things, new items to grab, and places to go and explore. Shadow of the Colossus, despite having that big world, is pretty linear because you have to beat the bosses in order most of the time, right? Yeah. Like, so point your sword, go. Point your sword, go. Right. So and they have some stuff you can find, but like there's nothing like Koroks. There's no dungeons. There's a little bit of platforming, but like for the most part, it's just kind of a game that's there.
And the lizards are just like, it's too much effort for not enough payoff, really.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't hate it. I at least have it because again,
Yeah.
like I was for those who weren't in the voice chat, like I fucking hate FNAF. I have no interest in anything in that series. It doesn't make any sense to me, and it just doesn't sound fun. But Shadow of the Colossus, I just feel. And I'm sure this is going to completely shock, dripping with sarcasm, everyone. I love artsy games. I genuinely do. Like, Absu is like way up there for me.
Yeah.
But this one, I just feel. I don't think it's aged well. And I don't know. I wish that they'd done more with it. Like, and still, like, cause I'm glad the PS4 version is superior, but there's just some like those control fixes which I feel like could have like boosted further. But I mean, if you enjoy it, I'm glad you do. I'm gonna finish it because there are very few games that I get so mad about that I refuse to finish. Once I'm invested in something, it might take me a while to get back to it, but I will finish it.
Yep. So, obviously, people know me. People will probably expect to hear me say Donkey Kong 64. You're not going to hear that here today. You're not. All I'm gonna say is for Donkey Kong 64, real quick, before I go to my actual like first choice, is that I had a bad experience with the game. Therefore, I'm not the biggest fan with the game because of the fact that it just didn't really give me a good time.
That's fair.
I'm reluctant on going back because of the fact that I had that bad experience. But now we go into the game that I'm gonna go with, and it's low-hanging fruits that this game gets shit talked with like to death, honestly. But it is easily the worst game in its own series. But the reason I picked this is because this game was so boring that I'm surprised that there were even games after this. And the game that I'm going to go with is Devil May Cry 2.
Oh.
So
yeah.
why am I going with Devil May Cry 2? Okay. Here's the thing. Yes. Devil May Cry 2 is not a good game. It's easily the worst game in its series. The fact that we actually managed to get more games afterwards that were really good is just shocking considering how bad the second game is. It's like with Devil May Cry 3, it's one of those things where it's like, if the game wasn't good, that was going to be it. But it ended up being one of the best games in the series afterwards. But with 2, the problem is that game, the original team who worked on that game went on to work on other projects, and Capcom ended up getting their arcade division, who mainly worked on fighting games, to work on Devil May Cry 2. And they had one or two different directors who started with the project or were part of it, and then they left. And then they had another person, Hideaki Tsuno, who recently left Capcom. He stepped up to at least try to do something, but the problem is there wasn't enough time. So there was a lot of changes he wanted to make, but he couldn't get a lot of it in time. Unfortunately, we ended up getting the game that we got, and while it did sell well, it was not good. And like, because the gameplay is a huge step down. Like, it just and the difficulty is ridiculously easy. It's not a hard game at all. Like, I was expecting it to be a hard game for no reason. No, it's actually really easy. Like, you could beat the game in less than 10 hours. With both characters. And to be honest with you, I'll tell you this right now. In terms of what I like about this game, the music. The music absolutely is like the best part about the game. I felt that like the music is just as good as Devil May Cry 1. I thought that they did a good job with it. But I personally like using Lucia. I'm not sure if I pronounced it right. I like her more in this game compared to Dante. Dante's the worst thing about this game. Like, he has no personality in this game, which is a far cry of how he was in Devil May Cry 1 and every game afterwards, where he has a lot of personality. Like, he's like, because he loves pizza, drinking chocolate milkshakes. He loves like going out, shooting and like attacking anyone, like kicking so much ass. He's like a fun-loving character. Here, he's very stoic. He's very boring. He has no personality whatsoever. Whereas Lucia, at least, like, she is actually really cool. I like her play style a lot more. It actually makes the game more tolerable to me. But they do have like those styles, like for example, like Don't Worry has Come On, Bingo, Are You Ready, Showtime, and all that stuff. But it goes back down to Don't Worry a lot easier, because they basically linked it with like D, C, B, A, and S and all that stuff. And the Devil Trigger can be OP if you know how to use it. If you know exactly how to use it. But that, and also the fact that like, I like the fact that when it was over. Yeah.
I mean, that's a mood. That's a mood.
That's all I can say about Devil May Cry 2, because otherwise this game sucks. All right.
No, I think we've all felt that about various games, and I have to admit, my friend, you're making me very glad I've not played it.
Yeah. Now, we're gonna go to you, Caitlin.
Caitlin has stepped out for a bit. She had to take the dogs out.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. Then we'll go with you, Mantle.
Okay. So for another game that I wasn't as fond of, like, again, we've all talked about some of the. It's just really funny because when I was I literally had to look at my game shelf earlier to be like, okay, I know I'm going to talk about Shadow of the Colossus. What's another one I'm going to talk about? And I'm looking through them, and for a moment, I almost thought Assassin's Creed 3, but I'm like, no, I liked the game except for the ending. I mean, even with the ending, I wouldn't go so far as to say that the ending ruined the game, but it really didn't help it. I think the biggest saving grace for that one for me is the fact that Assassin's Creed 4 came out, and that's my favorite game in that whole series. For me, I literally look at my shelf, like, because the way that I arrange my video games, I'll do like a full collection picture at some point because I'm working on updating them again. It's a very, if you're trying to find it alphabetically, you're in for a tough time. I do a combination of like by console, favorites, series, and then a grouping together.
Right.
So I literally had to go at the bottom, and I realized, oh, I do have a PS4 game that I've got underneath Shadow of the Colossus. Yep. And it's like, okay, this is what I'll talk about. Again, no low-hanging fruits on this one, and I realize that this might be another controversial take, but I gotta go with The Last of Us.
Interesting.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay, so I gotta go with Last of Us. I didn't hate it, but let's just say that I'm so conflicted about it that I'm not sure if I'll ever play part 2. And I feel weird about it because, like, some of my friends are like, "Oh, I hated this." Other of my friends are like, "Oh, it's one of the best games I've ever played," and I'm just,
it's one of those, like, either you like it or you don't.
Yeah. Now, I will say this though. I was sitting here because, again, like, I know many of us will occasionally have like props for any of that, because like it's like I know I don't have to pull up my copies of the games and be like, oh, hey, I've got this, but it's just, as we all know, it's fun. I'm looking at my copy of it here because I got it on PS3, never got around to playing it, so I gave that one to a friend and I got the PS4 version when that came out. So it was like, well, if I even played it, I might as well play the better version. And I'm looking at the top here where it says over 200 Game of the Year awards, and I'm literally thinking to myself, how?
A lot of publications.
How? I mean, I know that you can't spell ignorant without IGN, but outside of that, just you know, I'm right. But it's like,
I'm like, wow. I've heard that phrase so many freaking times in the last like 10 years. Like, geez.
It's so accurate, though.
It is.
I mean,
accurate.
So I actually did stream this game, but part of why I got into it and wanted to check it out had nothing to do with the hype surrounding it. Because first off, it's very important to know about me. I'm extremely picky about my zombies. I'm extremely picky about zombies or zombie-like things. Like, to me, they have to make sense past a certain way. Like, case in point, like Resident Evil. Part of why I like Resident Evil is that it never takes itself too seriously.
Yeah.
Right.
As we all well know, I've actually had a couple Capcom fans try to argue with you, and I'm like, you are missing the point of the series you claim to love. But it's like, well, yeah, you have that foreboding feeling, but there's still that camping thing. You don't even have to play the original Resident Evil on PSX to get that.
Right.
And then I flipping love the anime Zombieland Saga. It's my second favorite anime of all time after Sailor Moon. But then stuff like Left 4 Dead, I was watching friends play that, and those don't look, no, those are dumb zombies. I don't want that.
Yeah.
And I realized, now, I will say, speaking as a biologist, one of the positives I can feel for this is that I did like the fact that it was fungus-based, because for those who don't know, while fungi are one of the major kingdoms of life, they proliferate at an astounding rate. But so, like, to the point where if every single fungus out there had a 100% proliferation rate of all the spores they release, you would literally be sitting there buried in puffballs and have like mushrooms all over your house. They have to hit such specific conditions to be able to have those spores actually become an adult.
Right.
So that, plus just the way they get in, and I say this as someone who's even had to work treating fungal infections on animals at work. They're a beastie, and they're tricky to deal with. So the different nature of this, because I mean, that, as we all know, with when certain zombie things are taking itself a bit more seriously, like, okay, is this a bacteria, a virus, or a fungus, or is it a parasite? And even in my own trials and tribulations with fish medicine, same as in human medicine, you can't treat them all the same. I thought that it was very clever for that. So one of the positives was, I'm picky about my zombies, but I felt that they did a decent job with using the fungus. Now, that said, some of the later designs I wasn't as huge a fan of, but the base premise of using fungi was pretty cool.
Also,
now,
real quick, Caitlyn can't hear you at all.
That's extremely strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't even show up on Video Ninja.
Well, I see myself on there, and
I see you too. That is.
Okay.
Yeah, I see you too as well.
That's so weird. Thanks for the heads up, Caitlyn. Yeah, I
can see you on stream.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I guess.
So
I guess
weird.
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 Yeah.
No problem.
Okay, cool. But I was gonna say the back on one of the things that I was the original point of, like, part of why I checked it out. Like I said, it had nothing to do with the hype for it. It's because I like Naughty Dog. I'm a big Uncharted fan. Like, Uncharted is not a top 10 series for me, but it's always at least an honorable mention. I really do love Uncharted, and actually, when I first started streaming, the first 2 streams I did were Breath of the Wild, because I was like, okay, something really quick and easy for me to test out. It was something I'm familiar with, so I can just run around and explore while I'm getting used to chatting. And then after that, I dove into doing a replay of the first 4 Uncharted games, because, again, a chance to play the new versions of them, but play a game I'm familiar with, and still keep up with chat. So because of knowing that Naughty Dog had worked on them, I was like, oh, let me check out Last of Us. And now I knew going in that it wasn't just going to be Uncharted revamped. I knew that.
Right.
But that didn't help it for me. So this leads into my next positive, and frankly, the main positive that comes to mind. The gameplay is solid. The gameplay is very solid. Like, again, you've got that mixture of combat and stealth. I enjoy the style of gameplay that you get in Uncharted and, frankly, in The Last of Us. But too many of the story elements it's just messy. And it's just not fulfilling. And it's like, I realize that when you're post-apocalyptic, you're going to have shades of that, but there's a limit. Because, like, when the game is first starting out, like, no, I got emotional on stream because, without spoiling anything, it kind of hurts early on. Like, it's like, oh, I was not expecting that gut punch so suddenly. But
they sure love the gut punches.
yeah. And that gut punch was brilliant Naughty Dog fashion. I was happy for it as much as it hurt. And another positive is some of the characters, they're great. But so much of there's just a lack of cohesion holding the story and the characters together. And without even getting into the, again, no spoilers just in case if anyone is still curious about playing it despite me ragging on it. Or I'm not even ragging, I'm just being critical. I'm not going to say don't play the game. I'm just going to say don't buy into the hype. Form your own opinion.
Yeah.
And raise a skeptical eyebrow when you see it's won over 200 Game of the Year awards. But I was actually, as far as like awards go, I was actually having this conversation with Random the other week because he really gets into the award shows. I personally don't, and I started asking him, okay, what game won this sound design award this year? And he just kind of paused and said, well, I don't know. I said, neither do I, because no one remembers after the show's over.
Yep.
Like, to me, it's like, it's nice if you get it, but it's not, as all of us here know, it's not the end all be all. But again, no spoilers, but the end of it, I really was uncomfortable with certain decisions that were made, and I understood the reasoning behind them. But it was just, oh, you've taken out redeemability. So I don't know. Again, it's just one of those where I didn't find myself sitting there playing it the same as Shadow of the Colossus, but like, wait, why do people like this? But I found myself going, why is this so popular?
Yep.
But again, positives, good gameplay, really interesting design for the fungus, and there's some good characters. It does have that Naughty Dog feel. If you've played through Uncharted or other good Naughty Dog games and you're looking for more of that same vibe, give it a shot. Even if zombie games aren't your vibe, they're not technically zombies, give it a shot. But like I said, I'm just looking at this and I just feel visceral disappointment filling my being.
Yep. So that's The Last of Us.
Yep.
All right.
That's the last of that.
Yep. Well, Caitlin, you're up.
Oh boy.
Welcome back.
Okay, so yeah, right. Had to take, the dogs need some love, so
Yep.
I took care of it.
I'm sure that they were very happy for that. They're good doggos.
Yep.
Yeah, good doggos. So I wanted to pick something that literally no one else picked at all. And there was no chance, I'll even go as far to say, I don't think anyone, not just in this call, I don't think anyone watching this has played this. Have any of you heard of Mado Monogatari?
Oh yeah, I know it.
No.
The name sounds familiar, but I can't
No.
say that I've.
Monogatari.
So this is a
like
series that eventually spawned Puyo Puyo.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Okay.
So it was originally a dungeon crawling series with, Arl, Satan, the Prince, like all these characters that are kind of more well known for Puyo nowadays, including said Puyos, the slime of the series.
Yep.
And then, eventually Sega got the rights to the characters, but not the RPG part, so they just made nothing but puzzle games, while the company that owned the RPG part just kind of had to scramble and make their own crap now.
Like wasn't there like a game called Sorcery Saga? Like
that's the English version. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So eventually we did get one game in that series, and it was for the Vita. No one played it. No one cared because it didn't have any of the characters people wanted. It didn't have any of the Puyos. It didn't have Arl. It didn't have any of that. It was OCs. It was nothing but OCs, right?
Wow. Interesting.
But the game I wanted to talk about was the remake of the first game that they did for Sega Genesis. I played this last year through a fan translation. And because I was like, you know what? I just wanted something, kind of classic, like, every now and then I'll play a classic Sega RPG. Like the year before that, I played Phantasy Star 1. And then, last year was Sorcery Saga. So Sorcery Saga on the Genesis is a really it's interesting, right? Because it's a dungeon crawler where there's like 100 floors you can go through, and each floor kind of not literally 100, but there's dozens of floors, and there's 100 side quests you can do to quote unquote beat the game, right? So, and the whole objective is that you play as Arl, and she's trapped in this tower. She's not allowed to leave until she passes her exam, which is reaching the top of the tower. And you only get the good ending if you beat all 100 of them. But I fucking hated. I got 99 out of 100, and so you see that final tally mark at the end, and it's like, oh, you did a swell job, I guess. You don't get the good ending, and I'm like, no.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh my
Holy
goodness.
crap.
Wow.
I am so sorry.
I was so mad.
Understandable.
I was so mad because that game is like 15 hours long. I did not want to play that again because the main thing I didn't like, spells in this game. It's a dungeon crawler, right? Like a first person dungeon crawler. But in battles, the best way I could describe it is that you can only attack using action commands, but all of your action commands are done with like dialing in the inputs Mortal Kombat style. So you have to hit like down, down, left, left, left button, and that's your fire spell. And you have to do that every time you want to use the fire spell.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
And guess what's the only good attack option? Your fire spell. But what I like about this game, there are so many unique sprites, and they're all really well animated. And all the characters are there. Like I said, like you have that dragon girl from Puyo Puyo. She's one of the enemies in the game. There's like comedy in the game. Like there's legit like a tsundere like rival character who like is mad at you that you're quote unquote like lusting after the hero guy. But Arl doesn't even know who she's talking about most of the time because she ignores the hero guy. So like, it's such a silly little game. And for like 1992, when this came out, there weren't like comedy RPGs really. That wasn't like a thing. So like the writing in it is actually pretty good. And granted, that may be the fan translation kind of bumping it up a little bit, right? But like, but what I played is silly, right? Like there's a lot of like unique, silly animated sprites. Like there's voice acting in it, not a lot, but it's there. And the game screws you over now and then because it's a dungeon crawler made in the 90s. Of course it will. But that the amount of like work that went into that game, despite how hard that game is actually incredible. So it's it's kind of funny. I picked two RPGs, and the nicest thing I have to say about them is the art and the theming.
Yep.
That's valid though, because as we all know, like gameplay is the most important thing, but you
Absolutely.
can still appreciate good art. So I get you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Silver, your turn.
All right, cool. So this game, I'm not sure if you guys have already played it. Shell, you know what game I might be talking about because I played this on stream, and I'm not sure if you were there for like when it happened, but like I remember stopping like midstream. I remember just saying, "Okay, I've had enough of this game. It's not going anywhere. I've been doing the same thing over and over again, and I think I've had my fill." And it's a game called Ironcast.
Oh, that one.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, Ironcast is it's this match 3 puzzle like roguelike game. I remember because it was on the Switch, but I got it on Steam because I got it through a bundle. But I'd worked on because I'm still technically a mod on the on Nintendo Switch subreddit, but like way back in 2017, we got to work with the developers for like an Ask Me Anything, and like I think we got to interface with them on a couple of things here and there, and it was like around E3 season, and I got to know about the game then and play it. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And so like I was like, okay, we went to these guys. This game seemed pretty cool. I'll check it out. And it was the game of my outfit challenge. So the game is more or less it's a steampunk. It's a kind of like a steampunky like take on like it's a steampunk game like it's like I think an alternate version of like World War One or Two. I forget like all the details now, but like the problem with the game was that again the actually puzzle stuff great, like it's like an RPG. You basically like chaining combos to like get attacks done. Great. The problem is is that the roguelike parts drag it down completely. Like RNG will screw you, and it will always screw you because like the idea is like you're playing to get to the end boss, but the thing is like you don't have enough of the resources that you need to defeat him. Like you're still vastly underpowered, so like they want to go on like multiple runs to get stronger, a la Hades or any other game. Like you learn more, you get more weapons, so on and so forth. It felt as if every run I was doing, I wasn't getting better. Like I was struggling to like get through some certain aspects of the game. I tried different tactics, I tried different like mechs, but anytime I got to the final boss, I did just instantly destroyed. And like obviously the whole point of the outfit challenge was to beat the games. I never rolled credits in the game because I don't know where the end was, because obviously he was supposed to beat the boss, and I just could never beat him. So I remember just, again, rare time that I ever on stream just like, okay, I can't do this game anymore. No more of this. We're moving on to the next game. Because like at that point, I had a streak. Like games A through H, I beat them all. I think the only thing I think the game I skipped was like a bit Chip Runner, because that was like really really hard towards the end because of a huge difficulty spike. But besides that, I was like, okay, let's like not make this like a habit to skip the games, because I want to make sure that we beat them. But this one was just like pushing back so hard, and I'm like, I can't do it. But if I were to give it like any sort of like positive spin, the lore is really good. Like I think they really they brushed up the history. The lore is really decent. If I can look it up real quick, because like I forget like what time period it's in. Because like I'm always a huge like history like nerd, so I always like what they have for like what they do for like the history setting. So so it's steampunk Victorian era roguelike. That's where it's at. And it's about like more or less like defending the British Empire from being taken over by outside forces, namely France. But all the lore is there, really really well done. They really build up the whole how do mechs exist in this world, and it's all steam powered stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool, industrial era, industrial revolution kind of type of stuff there. So I think that was like that was a big takeaway. And then also the gameplay itself is pretty good, because like I could see like where the game is fun, because I was enjoying it. Like I really enjoyed like a lot of the gameplay. So there are parts where like I was able to kind of like pull off like insane combinations, and come back and win. But the problem is like those victories didn't matter in the grand scheme, because by the time like I learned how to play, and I was doing well, but I was too underpowered and I couldn't beat the boss. I couldn't beat the final boss. And as you go through these things again and again and again, it's like again. That's the definition of insanity, trying to do the same thing over and over again, trying to expect a different result. And that's where I just like it became less endearing and more annoying. So I'll give it that. But like again, thinking about now, it just reminds me of all the like just like the mind-numbing sessions of like me playing and trying my best to like really just like be engaged, but then because you've had a game, you probably had a couple of games after where like you're trying to like really get into it, but the game's like pushing back at you, like really hard, and it's like you can't like really. You try to give it like the benefit of the doubt, but the game's like, no, we're doing it this way, we're doing it our way. You like it or you don't, and I'm like, well, I don't, and I quit on the game. Like I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel that for sure.
Like I think it was that point where I realized like if a game's like really not respecting my time, like I can't like keep playing it.
Yep, it's never just one game. Go ahead.
No.
Oh, I was just gonna say there comes a point where like you gave it an honest shot, right?
I gave it like the most honest shot possible. I'm like, granted it's a different thing. I played like a match tree like puzzle variants, whatever at the time. And I love match tree puzzle games. I play a lot of them. Like they're great. But like Puzzle Quest, this was nothing. It would just not. As a roguelike, I think it just really, really just did not work for me, because like there are better roguelikes to play out there, like obviously, but like I feel like if it had taken up those things, it probably would have been fine. Like, but like with it just drags it down completely. Like it's like they wanted to make the game like everlasting, really have like a lot of like content, like really keep going, but like at the same time, it kind of really like, made the game feel a lot more monotonous. And like I feel like if they had built like maybe a better story, you really like expanded the amount of like stuff that you could do in the game, upgrade something like that. Like there's a lot of ways where they could have like stripped out the roguelike stuff and make it like a good standalone, puzzle RPG, on the likes of like Puzzle Quest or like those kinds of games. But I like it's just like nah. Like if they ever do a sequel, don't make it a roguelike again, please.
Oh yeah, exactly. So
And
go ahead.
And then one thing on the thread too, like I remember specifically after I quit the game, I took out any roguelikes that were in my outfit challenge like polls just for a bit because I was burnt out on those.
Yeah.
Understandable. I mean, sometimes when you get that burned, like how good the others are, just the style. You need a break.
God, I think I'm still on a break because like my Steam Discovery queue, like I have roguelikes taken out because everything's a roguelike, and I'm like I like them, but like I feel like after Hades, like I just wasn't really enthused with as many anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Understandable.
So I have a couple of I already mentioned Devil May Cry 2 as the one that I did, but now
I did play.
But as far as what the other one that I'm going to go with, ironically enough, same company, Capcom, but different series, and I'm going to go with the Mega Man X series. And which one specifically? Because there's two that people talk about that are really bad, and that's Mega Man X6 and Mega Man X7. I'm going to go with Mega Man X6.
Understandable.
Because with Mega Man X7,
it's like I love the first three, and then it just I'm happy to have a Nintendo kid.
Because when
I felt like at first I was like no, but
which I will, like, because I will say, once the Mega Man X series jumped from like Super Nintendo to PlayStation, X4 was amazing, but X5 it was okay. It was not really that great. It was supposed to be the last X game, but then they just made X6. X6 is just too fucking hard for its own good. I'll get before I get to X6. At least with X7, they were trying something completely different with it. They were at least trying to do half 2D, half 3D. They were at least trying that out. I'll give them credit for that one. And but it's just X6. It's basically like they take what they have for X4 and X5. And X5 was a step down from X4, but X6, how did they fuck that one up? Holy shit. How did they fuck that up? And what happened is that
the more
there was actually a character like after you beat like the 8 Mavericks, which some of them are really hard, but I will say there's one boss that you get to named Hymax who feels like a final boss style character, but he's actually one of the stage bosses after you beat all the Mavericks. He's a hard boss that took a while to beat, and it turned out he's actually the easiest one compared to every other boss that you were going to face against after that. And then when you fight Gate is a piece of work. Holy fuck, man. That boss fight was so drawn out. Like it took a while for me to beat him. And Sigma was basically just meh. One of the weakest Sigma fights in the entire series.
Yeah,
but
right.
So I'm bringing it up and talking about the negatives when I should be talking about the positives. What are the positives, you may ask? The music. The music is absolutely amazing. One of my favorite tracks. One of my favorite tracks in this game. There's a Maverick named Infinity Maginian, and his theme sounds like a knockoff of the Final Countdown. I kid you not. It sounds that good. Like some music's really good in the game. And I do like the Maverick designs. I do think that they're like in terms of the Maverick designs, they're spot on compared to the other. In addition to the other games in the series. And I also happen to like some of the stage settings. I just don't like the level design at all. Like, it's like I love what they did with the stages. I just wish that the level design was good. It was terrible. And the last thing I'll mention about X6 is that, like, in terms of any nice things to say about it, well, the only other nice thing I could say about it is it was a cool concept for X to actually use Zero's saber, because Zero was actually supposed to be dead.
Yeah.
And then they decided to bring him back to life, because X5 was supposed to be the ending of it and what sets up the Mega Man Zero series. But unfortunately, they just kept making them. They made 3 more X games, as well as two Game Boy Color games, and a remake of the PSP remake of the first game, which I thought was pretty good. But yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun.
But that's Mega Man X right there, X6. Otherwise, I think it's a really bad game. It's the worst Mega Man X game I play. Actually, no, I take that back. There's actually one that's worse. Mega Man Extreme 2 for Game Boy Color.
Oh, what?
Fuck that game, because
I've heard about that one.
Fuck that game because
Extreme
you have X's playthrough. You fight 4 Mavericks, and then you have a boss fight. Then you do the same thing with Zero, and then afterwards you have a full true playthrough where you get to use both with all 8 Mavericks, and then after you beat the final boss, you fight the true final boss. The whole game, Mega Man Extreme 2 is fucking bullshit. Yeah, I'm gonna say this right now.
Yeah.
I used to think that Mega Man X6 was the worst. That is until I played Extreme 2 for the Game Boy Color. More likely, when those two, Extreme 1's great. Extreme 2 sucks. But at some point, they're going to hit the Game Boy Color NSO, just like the 5 Game Boy games did for Mega Man. The moment they do, I really hope people experience Extreme 2 for what it is, because it's not good. It's not good at all. So, but the only positive thing I can say about that one is it looks good for Game Boy Color. That's about it.
Looks good, I guess.
For a Game Boy Color game, but that's about it. Oh yeah.
Right.
So that's it.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's 2 of our games that we like, that we find flaws on, and 2 games that we don't really like at all, but we have to find nice things to say. That was fun. I like this concept.
Oh yeah.
That
was great.
That's cool.
I was ecstatic when you shared it with me, because I mean, I love every single theme that you have, whether I'm a guest or just hanging out in chat. But I was like, every single time, like, you surprise me with one, I'm always excited. But this one in particular, like, ooh, oh yeah.
Oh my god.
So yeah, no, that was great.
I just happened to notice the picture you just posted in the podcast guest room, Caitlin.
Oh
yeah.
Oh my god! Wow.
Oh, wow. I even noticed that too.
Yeah.
Xenoblade 2.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to fund that one.
Yep. Because to be honest, this concept,
you showing.
I was just gonna say real quick.
After you, sorry.
I was just going to say real quick, that this was basically a test run to see if something like this can work on a stream. I want to eventually turn this into a panel for a future convention.
That'd be good.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
I'd love that.
That'd be good.
Yeah. And also, I plan to do another one of this at some point later in the year, but I'll have different responses, and I'm gonna have different guests with their perspectives just to see what they can come up with. I'll figure that one out in due time.
Absolutely.
But that being said, Mantle, Caitlin, Silver, thank you all so much for being a part of this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you for
problem.
having us.
Yep. So we will be wrapping up.
Always like, yeah.
No, no, go ahead.
Like, as you know, like I feel like speaking for all three of us is like we all love hanging out with you, and we're all always happy to be here. We know we can't be on every single episode because that wouldn't be fair with the amazing like assortment of people you get. But no, seriously, thank you so much for having us. It is a blast as always, and I always just love chatting about everything we have, like both the direct for the questions and the topic as well as just in general, because it's just great hanging out with y'all, and it just always. Video games are, again, outside marine biology, my biggest passion. Being able to enjoy that with all of y'all is just. I'll just be blunt. I need it.
Yep.
Aw.
So-
Even if you hate good games like Shadow of the Colossus, I can understand.
Even if you hate good, and even if you, well, it's okay, Caitlin. I mean, I can say the same. Even if you hate good games like Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
I'm sorry that they decided to send half of that team to work on Breath of the Wild instead of working on Xenoblade 2.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that Walking Simulator didn't get the port it deserved.
And
Damn.
anyway, but anyway, before we wrap this up, Mantle, where can we find you?
You can find me on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/MantleFerox. I do also have socials on there, which MantleFerox, I'm also there on Twitter as well as Blue Sky. Instagram, I do have a different channel for that. That would be, different name rather. It's the Guardian, because M for Mantle, I'm a Guardian, the Guardian. Hey. But yeah, you can find all that on my Twitch channel there. Like I said at the start of the show here, I am easing my way out of a bit of a break thanks to a big move and just like taking some decompression time to really take care of myself. But streams will be resuming for there. But yeah, you can find me on Twitch. Outside, you can find me on Discord and hanging out with all of these amazing friends. But yeah, that's where you can find me. And thank you all so much for. Actually, no, the main place you can find me is underwater.
I was saying, like, I was like, there it is.
Yep. Yep. And Caitlin, where can we find you?
Yeah, I mean, you just look up KutieKatelyn. You'll just find me everywhere. For the most part, I got lucky that it's just KutieKatelyn on everything. So YouTube, Blue Sky, I guess Twitter. That hopefully that dies sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But, you know, you know, all the stuff like that on Twitch as well. Like I said, I stream all kinds of stuff from, you know, random RPGs to random classic games, and every now and then maybe I watch something political because that's important. So
Yep. And Silver?
Well, so long as you don't name Sylverstone Khandr, you can find me anywhere and everywhere. Twitter, Blue Sky, here on Twitch.tv. Again, literally everywhere. Like, I'm like not even kidding. Like, you can just find me anywhere and everywhere. Just look for the name, and 9 out of 10 times it's me. If it's not me, let me know. I can always fix that.
Yep.
Don't want any doppelganger. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm the only Silverstone that I know. Well, besides one other guy, but like that's like another person.
Yep. And of course, you can find me on pretty much any social media that you could think of that within the whole stratosphere of the internet. And I do weekly podcast episodes, and as well as like doing daily streams Monday through Thursday with the occasional Sunday and the rare Friday stream. While this stream, as of this recording, I'm still going because obviously this is still the birthday subathon. We still have some time left for tonight. But the next episode, Sharing with Shellshock, will be happening on October 6th, which will be Gaming Magazine Memories. This is the sequel to the Nintendo Power one.
Ah, nice.
Yep.
nice.
Very cool.
Which I'm looking forward to doing that
I
one.
saw you post that. I'm
That's really good.
Yep. And Caitlin, I know I'm gonna have you on again in the future for PlayStation 1. That's gonna happen in early November.
Let's go.
And
awesome.
And Mantle, would you like to be a part of the Splatoon episode that I'm gonna do?
Yes.
October.
Yes, please and thank you.
October 20th. It's a Sunday. 8 p.m. Eastern. so far the guests for that are Mr. Ben and Epic Man.
And the Epic Man. I was gonna say Epic Man's definitely gotta be there.
Yeah.
Yes. So
I love both of them. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
yep. So that'll be happening October 20th. And I'm looking forward to like a lot more episodes. Because we do have an N64 one as well, which because we did Sega Saturn, now we're gonna do PlayStation, we're gonna do N64.
Yeah.
I'll say this right now. Next year we're doing PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox. I don't really have that much of discussion, but I could probably try to find a way to swing that one. And Dreamcast.
Yeah, if you heard Nintendo DS, I'm here.
I'll have you in for DS. Oh, but before we do DS, we have to do Game Boy Color, and all that.
You can throw Game Boy Color together, or just the Game Boy
I'll
line.
I'll do Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance all in one episode.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's gonna do it for Shellshock. So that's it.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye for the segment.
Thank
Yep.
you.